Chapter 769. The primordial thunder dragon was born from lightning. It was faintly discernible within the tribulation clouds, and its divine sense echoed like thunder. The blood ancestor's eyes widened. Just at this moment, Wang Lin's origin soul moved and the tribulation clouds began to howl. The might of the tribulation clouds began to spread out. Shortly after, Wang Lin's origin soul turned into the primordial thunder dragon and charged out from the clouds. Behind it, countless bolts of tribulation lightning descended. "You're courting death." The blood ancestor's expression was gloomy. He immediately retreated and threw the blood ball in front of him without hesitation. He shouted, "Blood explosion!" With a bang, the blood ball exploded and turned into a powerful force. Wang Lin's primordial thunder dragon origin soul immediately dissipated. However, the blood ancestor didn't relax at all. Instead, he became even more cautious. Where Wang Lin's origin soul dissipated, countless bolts of thunder appeared. They were like a rain of lightning that charged toward the blood ancestor from all directions. "You want to steal my blood body? You're overestimating yourself." The blood ancestor's eyes narrowed and his hands formed a seal. His body began to shine with a blood-colored light. The rain of lightning around him didn't charge into the blood-colored light but instead circled around it. The blood ancestor was startled and his expression changed greatly. He cursed inwardly, but it was too late. The tribulation lightning that was chasing Wang Lin's origin soul began to descend toward the blood ancestor. "Wang Lin!" The blood ancestor clenched his teeth and his body shined with a blood-colored light. He immediately shook off Wang Lin's origin soul, but during this process, the tribulation lightning continued to descend, piercing through Wang Lin's origin soul and landing on his body. The blood ancestor quickly retreated, wanting to charge out of the tribulation clouds. "Senior blood ancestor, the blood star has been destroyed. Even your concubine, Zxin, has died." Wang Lin's divine sense echoed. The blood ancestor's expression became even more gloomy. "And that blood-colored pavilion of yours, that thing is quite interesting." Wang Lin's voice slowly emerged from the void. "You're chasing after Wang here, but you don't know if your daughter, Yao Shishue, will be like a lamb walking into a tiger's mouth after being resurrected and returned to the blood star." Ever since Wang Lin had seen the blood ancestor, all he had seen were drops of blood. There was no trace of Yao Shishue at all. Furthermore, with the collapse of the storage space, even the blood ancestor wouldn't be able to protect her. Wang Lin analyzed the situation and concluded that it was very likely that Yao Shishue had been resurrected under the blood ancestor's protection. Wang Lin's words were like an invisible divine retribution that landed on the blood ancestor's heart. The blood ancestor's origin soul was already heavily injured, so now that it was unstable, his heart immediately trembled. Yao Shishue was his weakness. Wang Lin! As the blood ancestor's heart trembled, the blood-colored light around his body began to fluctuate and show signs of instability. A laugh echoed as Wang Lin's origin soul, which had been circling the blood ancestor, once again turned into countless bolts of lightning. The moment the blood-colored light around the blood ancestor's body fluctuated, the bolts of lightning pierced through the blood-colored light and entered the blood ancestor's body. At this moment, rainbow-colored bolts of thunder rained down from the sky. The blood ancestor let out a roar and tried to escape, but Wang Lin's origin soul began a life-and-death battle with the blood ancestor. The two of them used the blood ancestor's body as a battlefield and fought like crazy. The blood ancestor's origin soul shouldn't have been so weak, but half of it had been taken by the mysterious old man. Then he had encountered Wang Lin and was injured again. Even so, his origin soul was still stronger than Wang Lin's. However, because Wang Lin's origin soul was full of origin energy and his cultivation had reached the corporeal yang stage, he didn't actually try to possess the blood ancestor. Instead, he controlled the blood ancestor's origin energy and movements, making it so that the Blood Ancestor couldn't escape the divine retribution cloud. The Blood Ancestor had to die. If this person didn't die, then he would die. Wang Lin knew this very well. That was why he was willing to pay any price to keep the Blood Ancestor in the divine retribution clouds and use the power of the divine retribution to kill him. However, at this moment, the divine retribution was about to dissipate, and its power was not as strong as before. However, every bolt of thunder that landed on the Blood Ancestor's body caused his body to tremble. The tyrannical power collided within his body, injuring him, and on the other hand, Wang Lin's origin soul absorbed a portion of it to help him. Rumbling thunder continued to fall, and the clouds began to dissipate. At the same time, a destructive pressure began to converge. This was the final bolt of heavenly tribulation, and as soon as it formed, it absorbed all of the clouds, forming a cloud of tribulation lightning that rumbled down toward Meng Hao. This was the last strike of the heaven's wrath, and this lightning was going to kill. A sense of death filled the Blood Ancestor's body. At this moment, he was being controlled by Wang Lin's origin soul, so there was no way for him to escape. The Blood Ancestor bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a large mouthful of blood. Blood seal. The blood immediately turned into a giant seal and landed on his body like a giant net. The moment the net landed, a bright red light flashed between his eyebrows and the Blood Ancestor's origin soul rushed out. In a flash, it charged out of the clouds. Wang Lin, I don't want this blood body of the old man anymore. Don't even think about escaping from the blood seal. You will have to face this divine retribution yourself. His origin soul was filled with unimaginable hatred. After charging out of the clouds, he didn't even look back. Instead, he quickly escaped. This time, he had lost miserably. More than half of his origin soul was gone, and he had lost his physical body. All that was left was a fragment of his origin soul. If he didn't escape now, and Wang Lin didn't die, the consequences would be unimaginable. He even regretted following his promise to save Yao Shishue and not killing Wang Lin. Then he wouldn't have ended up like this. But now it was too late. Under the blood seal, Wang Lin's origin soul was trapped inside the Blood Ancestor's body. However, he didn't try to escape. Instead, he circulated the origin energy inside his origin soul, causing the divine retribution to descend. A thunderous rumble echoed across the void. Under the divine retribution, the blood seal immediately collapsed and the Blood Ancestor's body was in tatters. Wang Lin's origin soul was knocked out and turned into an ancient thunder dragon that roared at the sky. The clouds completely dissipated, and so did the divine retribution. Wang Lin's origin soul took the Blood Ancestor's body back to the fragment of land. At this moment, the fragment was only a few hundred meters wide. It no longer looked like a piece of land, but a giant seal. After his origin soul returned to his body, Wang Lin opened his eyes and a powerful aura swelled inside his body. He took a deep breath and put away the Blood Ancestor's body. At the same time, he looked down at the seal below him. His eyes lit up and he hit the ground with his hand. The fragment immediately trembled and entered Wang Lin's origin soul. It quickly shrank until it was the size of a grain of sand and was swallowed by Wang Lin. He let out a long laugh and stepped into the void. At this moment, Wang Lin's cultivation had reached the corporeal yang stage. Although he wasn't at the peak, he wasn't far from it. The origin energy inside his body was very dense, but a lot of it hadn't been absorbed yet. Once he absorbed it all, he would immediately reach the peak of the corporeal yang stage and become infinitely close to a second-step cultivator. In the Thunder Celestial Realm, aside from a limited number of people, Wang Lin was unrivaled. At this moment, with his spells and treasures, especially the Thunder Celestial Realm Fragment and the Beast Bone, even if he encountered an early-stage Nirvana Scryer cultivator that had just entered the second step, he would still have the qualifications to fight them, even if victory or defeat was uncertain. The pressure he felt when he escaped from the Alliance star system to the Luo Tian was immediately swept away. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and his divine sense spread out toward the blood ancestor's origin soul. Cut the weeds and eliminate the roots, don't leave any future troubles. There was a flash of killing intent in Wang Lin's eyes. With his corporeal yang cultivation, the origin energy in his body moved several times faster than a peak late-stage ascendant cultivator. He was like a meteor piercing through the sky as he charged into the void. A powerful sense of self-confidence appeared in Wang Lin's heart. This kind of self-confidence had little to do with cultivation, it was the confidence of a heaven-defying cultivator. So it turns out that powerful cultivators like the blood ancestor, Tian Yunzi, and Ling Tianho aren't invincible. Wang Lin's eyes were filled with determination, and he revealed a cold smile. Not even Tian Yunzi could have imagined that the disciple he accepted from a half-wasted planet would be able to rely on a series of opportunities to force the blood ancestor into such a state. However, there should be someone helping me. Otherwise, the blood ancestor wouldn't have been so weak when I found him. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. This question still existed in his heart. At this moment, deep in the void before Wang Lin, on a fragment, Li Yuan's face was pale and he was running away. His right arm was broken and was no longer there, and blood was still seeping out. There were many sword wounds on his body, and the one on his abdomen was shocking. At this moment, his origin soul was injured and showed signs of collapsing. If it wasn't for the fact that he was using his family's annihilation restriction to escape, he would have already died. A death aura surrounded Li Yuan's body and his face was filled with bitterness and unwillingness. He wanted to resist, but the other party had a restriction-breaking ancient mirror. In order to help Wang Lin, he had used the restriction heart, so it wasn't enough. Unless he could close the distance, he wouldn't be able to hide for a short period of time. In the Luo Tian star system, only those families with inheritances from the celestial realm have a restriction-breaking ancient mirror. If my Li family was strong, these people would only be clowns, but now… Brother Su, farewell. I can't fulfill my promise to you and can't teach you the restriction heart. This is not my wish. Cousin, this person has a lot of treasures on him. This celestial sword is very powerful, and I like it a lot. Behind Li Yuan, there were 3 people casually chasing after him. Among the 3 of them, there were 2 men and 1 woman. The woman was very beautiful and there was a seductive look in her eyes. In her hand was the celestial sword that Li Yuan had obtained from the celestial storage space. Of the 2 men, 1 was old and 1 was young. The young one smiled and said, "Since little sister Xia likes it, this person has 8 more. Take me to get them one by one, then I'll ask where he got them and give them to you." This person's cultivation level was also at the peak of the late stage of ascendant, but the old man beside him was not ordinary. If Wang Lin was here, he would immediately see that the old man's cultivation level was at the peak of the illusory Yin realm. The battle for the monthly votes in July was too intense. Just at the beginning of the month, there were already as many votes as there were in late June. Chapter 770. In the void, as Wang Lin became more familiar with his corporeal yang realm, he became faster and faster. The origin energy inside his body was so powerful that it made him feel a bit uncomfortable. Every step he took, origin energy would move on its own, making it feel like he was breaking the void. This was too different from before. At this moment, Wang Lin's body seemed to be unable to coordinate and was slightly swaying. In fact, he even had a vague feeling that he had become one with the heavens and earth, and that he could achieve whatever he wanted. This feeling became stronger and stronger, and in the end, Wang Lin felt an urge to try. His eyes lit up as he looked at the endless void before him. The urge in his body reached a peak, and it was as if he wanted to truly become one with the world. It was as if the void in the world was his body. This feeling was a bit absurd, and with Wang Lin's calmness, his reason told him that this was impossible. However, the feeling from his body and origin soul was so real. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he pondered for a bit. Then he let go of his reason and closed his eyes. Relying on the feeling from his body and origin soul, he took a step forward. With this step, the void around him trembled. It was as if the void had turned into a pool of still water, and Wang Lin's foot landed on the water. Invisible ripples spread out from Wang Lin's right foot. At the same time, the origin energy inside Wang Lin's body began to move. As it filled his body, it fused with the world around him and formed a strange connection. Just at this moment, Wang Lin's body disappeared. There was a spell that surpassed the teleportation of the nascent soul stage, surpassed the teleportation of the ascendant stage, and was even 30% faster than the greater teleportation created by countless teleportation spells. This divine art was called Ground Shrink. This was a spell that ancient cultivators could only use after their origin energy formed their origin soul. In the current cultivation world, only second-step cultivators who had reached the Nirvana Scryer stage could sense and use this spell. Not every second-step cultivator could sense this divine power. This had nothing to do with talent but the sensitivity to essence energy. Countless kilometers away from where Wang Lin disappeared, the blood ancestor was rapidly escaping. His cultivation level had dropped to the corporeal yang stage, so he couldn't use many of his spells. In addition, his origin soul was damaged, so he was very weak in the void. Wang Lin, once the old man recovers, I swear I'll kill you. The blood ancestor was extremely fast. He was like an afterimage as he escaped through the void. After a long time, he let out a sigh of relief and thought, that little brat Wang Lin shouldn't be able to catch up. Right now I need to find someone to possess and use a secret method to recover to the Nirvana Scryer stage as soon as possible. After pondering for a bit, the blood ancestor made up his mind. However, just at this moment, his expression changed greatly and he didn't hesitate to escape again. A ripple appeared 1,000 feet behind him and Wang Lin's figure stepped out. Wang Lin's right foot landed and he opened his eyes. The blood ancestor was almost scared out of his wits. He was so shocked that he was terrified. Spatial bending. This person hasn't even reached the Nirvana Scryer stage, so how can he use a spell that belongs to second-step cultivators? Impossible. The blood ancestor felt bitter in his heart as he quickly escaped. It is said that those who can instantly cross the yin and yang illusory realm often reach the peak of the second step in the future. Could this be true? The blood ancestor was extremely shocked. Even before his cultivation level dropped, he couldn't learn this spell. He could only sense it, so he didn't completely grasp it. He had only touched the surface of it. As far as he knew, even Ling Tianhou hadn't completely comprehended spatial bending. In their eyes, this spell was infinitely close to the third step. For the first time, the blood ancestor felt a trace of fear toward Wang Lin. This fear came from what he had seen with his own eyes. He had personally witnessed Wang Lin's transformation. He had personally witnessed Wang Lin go from a peak late-stage ascendant cultivator to his current level. This little brat Wang Lin must have been lucky. That's right, he must have been lucky enough to use spatial bending. The blood ancestor's heart was filled with bitterness as he quickly escaped without looking back. The moment Wang Lin opened his eyes, they were filled with clarity. Even now, he still couldn't figure out what had happened. He felt like everything that had just happened was him raising his right foot and then putting it down. However, during this process, it was as if he had stepped into the river of time. Everything flashed before his eyes, and when his foot landed, he was standing here. Before him was the blood ancestor that he was about to chase. My divine sense didn't lock onto him at all. I just felt the killing intent in my heart and somehow managed to cross countless distances to arrive here. Staring at the blood ancestor's disappearing figure, Wang Lin didn't rush to chase. Instead, he pondered a bit and felt the various changes that had occurred. Compared to when he was chasing the blood ancestor, Wang Lin knew that what he was feeling right now was even more precious. Time seemed to pass very slowly, but it also seemed to pass in an instant. Half an incense stick of time later, Wang Lin's eyes revealed a look of enlightenment. He looked down at the void, raised his right foot, and tried to take a step forward. With one step, ripples appeared again, but his body remained in place. The feeling of being one with heaven and earth didn't appear. Wang Lin frowned as he looked in the direction that the blood ancestor had disappeared. He took a step forward, one step at a time. Chasing the blood ancestor was only one of his goals. Right now, in Wang Lin's heart, the feeling of being one with heaven and earth was even more important. When Wang Lin thought back to what had just happened, his heart palpitated with excitement. If I could completely master that kind of divine ability, then wouldn't everything between heaven and earth become invisible? A strange light appeared in Wang Lin's eyes as he took one step at a time. After a long time, his footsteps became faster and faster. Eventually, his entire body seemed to turn into a beam of light that flashed by. Gradually, that feeling of being one with heaven and earth appeared in Wang Lin's heart. He suppressed his excitement and quietly experienced it. However, this feeling was extremely faint, and he wasn't able to completely master it. Seeing that the feeling of being one with heaven and earth was showing signs of dissipating, Wang Lin let out a sigh. The image of the blood ancestor appeared in his mind, and he disappeared with one step. The blood ancestor, who was escaping, felt uneasy. Even when he was facing the Yao family's ancestor, the blood god, he didn't feel this strongly. Just at this moment, his expression suddenly changed and he retreated without hesitation. However, in an instant, a whip appeared in the void and ruthlessly lashed out at the blood ancestor. With a paw sound, the blood ancestor's hands formed a seal, and a ray of blood-colored light collided with the whip, causing him to retreat once more. Behind the whip, ripples appeared and Wang Lin stepped out. The blood ancestor's heart trembled. The scene before him had destroyed all his previous speculations. After using spatial bending twice in a row, the blood ancestor could no longer use the word luck to deceive himself. After Wang Lin appeared, his body flickered and his right hand pointed at the sky. In an instant, a yellow spring appeared in the sky. The resentment inside the yellow spring was so dense that it formed a sharp whistling sound that echoed in the surroundings. This yellow spring was different from before. At this moment, it was emitting dense origin energy. It was clear that as Wang Lin's cultivation level increased, even his spell had undergone a fundamental change. Origin energy, yellow spring. Wang Lin coldly stared at the blood ancestor and softly said. In an instant, the yellow spring trembled. It was originally just spreading out in the sky, but in the next instant it spread out endlessly, as if it had replaced the sky and earth. Everything around it became part of the yellow spring, including Wang Lin and the blood ancestor. Boundless origin energy filled the sky. Countless resentful souls formed by the resentment condensed and charged at the blood ancestor from all directions. The blood ancestor's expression was extremely gloomy. At this moment, he was only an origin soul, so he was extremely weak. This was even more so in the yellow spring. However, the blood ancestor was still the blood ancestor. Even now, it would be very difficult for Wang Lin to kill him. Although he was inside the endless yellow spring, his expression became fierce. His hands formed a seal and his body shined with a blinding red light. A powerful pressure came from his body. Blood transformation. The blood ancestor's body trembled. In an instant, his entire origin soul turned into a giant blood claw that charged at Wang Lin. With one grab, the 5 spatial rifts charged at Wang Lin like mad dragons. As they closed in, Wang Lin raised his right hand and origin energy surged through his body. He pushed forward, and with a bang, Wang Lin retreated out of the underworld river and shouted, "Condense the soul of the underworld river." The boundless rancor within the Yellow Springs was condensed by Yao Shishue's origin power, causing it to become even fiercer. Unexpectedly, the Yellow Springs transformed into countless images of Yao Shishue that shot toward the Blood Ancestor. The Blood Ancestor let out a sorrowful cry and reached out with his blood claw as if he wanted to tear the Yellow Spring apart. As for the resentful souls that had turned into Yao Shishues, even though he knew they were fake, he still didn't want to attack them. He forcibly tore open a gap in the Yellow Spring and charged toward the gap. At this moment, the resentful souls that had turned into Yao Shishues continued to block him. The Blood Ancestor let out a sorrowful cry and revealed a decisive expression. His blood claw swept out and the resentful souls that had turned into Yao Shishues collapsed. The miserable cries entered the Blood Ancestor's ears and caused his already damaged mind to tremble. The Yellow Spring finally collapsed under the Blood Ancestor's attack. The gap continued to grow larger and larger until the Blood Ancestor charged out with unspeakable hatred. Wang Lin, the old man and you are irreconcilable. Although the Blood Progenitor's god was swift and fierce, his heart was utterly exhausted. Yao Shishue's cries of agony continued to echo in his ears, as if they would never disappear. The moment the Blood Ancestor charged out, Wang Lin arrived in front of him. The 1,000,000,000 soul flag in his hand turned into a black cloud that surrounded the Blood Ancestor. The Karma Whip fused with the black cloud and crackling sounds echoed in everyone's ears. Return! Wang Lin let out a roar and all of the black fog shrank like crazy, but the Blood Ancestor continued to fight back. Even now, he was still the arrogant Blood Ancestor. As he resisted, the black cloud continued to shrink. This cycle continued until it showed signs of collapsing. A cold light flashed in Wang Lin's eyes, and he spat out a mouthful of origin energy. When this origin energy fused with the black cloud, it seemed to gain a great deal of power. It shrank like crazy, but the Blood Ancestor's resistance also increased infinitely. Bursts of popping sounds echoed and the black fog began to collapse. The Blood Ancestor's muffled roar came from inside, but it was like thunder in Wang Lin's ears. You want to become the old man? Wang Lin, you brat, you're not qualified. The Blood Ancestor's roar caused the black cloud to collapse once more. The thick black cloud rapidly thinned and was about to completely disappear. Once the black cloud disappeared, the 1,000,000,000 soul flag would be destroyed. 3 primary souls appear, shouted Wang Lin. Immediately, the 3 primary souls, including the Qilin soul and the 4th soul, began to attack the Blood Ancestor's nascent soul. Through the black cloud, one could see the Qilin soul turn into black smoke that surrounded the Blood Ancestor's nascent soul. The Qilin's mouth appeared above the Blood Ancestor's nascent soul, and it refused to let go. The 4th soul let out a piercing shriek as it shuttled back and forth between the Blood Ancestor's nascent soul. Every time it did so, it brought with it a large amount of nascent soul energy. As for the last soul, it turned into countless strands of black smoke that surrounded the Blood Ancestor's limbs, causing his movements to slow down. A fierce expression appeared on the Blood Ancestor's face. His body glowed red as he chanted a complicated incantation. As he chanted the incantation, the red glow around his body became even denser, causing the black cloud to turn purple. Blood soul collapse! A roar came from the Blood Ancestor's mouth. The red glow around his body was almost demonic, and an unimaginable power spread out from his nascent soul. The Qilin soul above his head let out a miserable groan. Under the impact of this power, its body quickly dissipated. The Qilin soul immediately retreated and let go of the nascent soul. The primary souls around the Blood Ancestor collapsed inch by inch and quickly retreated. Even the 4th primary soul that had pierced through his body was grabbed by the Blood Ancestor. The Blood Ancestor viciously squeezed it, causing cracks to appear on the 4th primary soul, and it turned into black smoke that entered the black cloud. Wang Lin, you brat! The blood ancestor's eyes were bloodshot as he tore a hole in the black cloud and was about to step out. From beginning to end, Wang Lin's eyes were calm. Just as the blood ancestor was about to step out, he spat out a ray of yellow light. Inside the yellow light was a grain of sand. The moment the grain of sand appeared, a powerful pressure surrounded it. In an instant, the grain of sand grew until it was 1,000 feet wide. It was like a mountain, but it also looked like a seal. This was a fragment of the celestial realm that had been refined by divine retribution and turned into a treasure inside the heaven and earth furnace. The moment it appeared, it contained a powerful celestial spiritual energy that pressed down on the blood ancestor. Popping sounds could be heard coming from the blood ancestor's body. The blood-colored light on his body became unstable, and the foot he had taken was actually forced back. The 1,000-foot fragment that had turned into a seal descended from the sky at an extremely fast speed. The blood ancestor let out a roar and charged forward. However, a thunderous rumble echoed as he was pressed down by the seal. The blood ancestor's expression was even weaker than before, but he was thrown to the ground with a ferocious expression. His body flickered with a bloody light as the karmic whip appeared and lashed out. The blood ancestor's body became even more sluggish. He was just about to resist when the seal descended once more. A thunderous rumble echoed out, and the blood ancestor's nascent soul was on the verge of collapsing. He let out a bitter laugh, and his eyes were filled with madness. It was at this moment that Wang Lin's voice echoed out. "Blood ancestor, Wang won't kill you. He will give you a chance to meet Yao Shishue again. If you self-detonate, you will never see Yao Shishue again." Wang Lin's voice was cold. The blood ancestor silently pondered, and the madness in his eyes slowly dissipated. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. His hands formed a seal and he shouted, "Collect!" The surrounding black fog instantly surged out and surrounded the blood ancestor's body. The karmic whip moved like a snake and coiled around the blood ancestor's body. At this moment, the 3 damaged primary souls rushed out again and began to devour the black fog. The fragment seal floated in the sky. Although it didn't press down again, its pressure still shrouded the blood ancestor. Under its pressure, the black fog shrank even faster. Almost in an instant, it turned into a ball and turned into a 30-foot banner that Wang Lin grabbed. The 30-foot banner spread out, and its surface completely changed. The Honorable Soul banner had originally been completely black, but now there was an image on it. The blood ancestor's figure was vivid and lifelike. The karmic whip was wrapped around his body, and the 3 primary souls were wrapped around him. The blood ancestor's expression was filled with grief and unwillingness. Just like that, the image on the banner took shape. Looking at the Honorable Soul banner, Wang Lin silently pondered. At this moment, he didn't feel proud of defeating the blood ancestor. Instead, he felt a bit melancholy. It could be said that he had put in a lot of effort to fight the blood ancestor. He wasn't as calm as he looked. During this battle, he had faced many life and death situations. If he had been the slightest bit careless, he would have died immediately. The danger of this battle was no less than when he had escaped from Wang Yu. In fact, it was even more dangerous than Wang Yu's trip. After all, Wang Yu's intelligence was extremely limited. There is no deep hatred between us. If you had taken Yao Shishue away, how could you have ended up like this? Wang Lin sighed softly. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Wang Lin wouldn't have been crazy enough to provoke the blood ancestor. Wang Lin felt very helpless. If he wanted to live, he had to resist. If he wanted to continue living, he had to kill the blood ancestor, who had sworn to destroy him. Yao Shishue was the blood ancestor's weakness. In order to seal the blood ancestor, Wang Lin had to win. In the face of survival, there was no such thing as despicable. Blood ancestor, Wang respects your fatherly love. Wang also has a son. If someone harmed his children, Wang knows how angry he would feel. But have you given me a chance to explain? Your daughter Yao Shishua is here with me, and I, Wang Lin, have never touched her. If it wasn't for your daughter Yao Shishua plotting against me, how could I have provoked the blood ancestor despite knowing his power? Wang Lin looked at the Honorable Soul Banner and said in a deep voice. He knew that the blood ancestor could hear him. Could it be that your daughter Yao Shishua can plot against me, but I, Wang Lin, can't? Although you love your daughter, you don't know right from wrong. You don't think about what happened before. Although you love your children, you spoil them. Wang gave you a chance, but your blood ancestor wanted to kill Wang. In Wang's eyes, your actions are no different from Yao Shishua's. Wang Lin understood this 1,000 years ago, but you, blood ancestor, still don't understand. Wang Lin raised his head and looked into the distance. He put away the Honorable Soul Banner, not caring whether the blood ancestor understood or not. He only needed to have a clear conscience. He raised his right hand and pressed down on the celestial fragment. With a flash of yellow light, the fragment shrank until it was the size of a grain of sand. Wang Lin swallowed it. He patted his clothes as if he wanted to sweep away the gloominess from the past few days. Then his body flickered and he flew off into the distance. In the Thunder Celestial Realm, I must make myself as strong as possible. My spells are still lacking. Before, my cultivation level wasn't high enough, so I wasn't qualified to obtain a celestial spell. However, with my current cultivation level, I can participate in the competition for the Caves of the Celestials. My goal is celestial spells. Wan Air, don't worry, I must go to planet Dong Lin. As long as there is a sliver of a chance for you to awaken, I, Wang Lin, will do everything I can to fight for it. Wang Lin placed his right hand between his eyebrows. The increase in his cultivation level made him even more confident in awakening Li Muan. The reason he came to the Luo Tian star system, aside from avoiding those old monsters, was to resurrect Li Muan. With thoughts of giving up on Li Muan, Wang Lin walked step by step toward the end of the void. His goal was the fragment before him. From this moment on, there was one more powerful person in the Thunder Celestial Realm, one more treasure snatcher. He was Wang Lin. On the fragment before Wang Lin, Li Yuan's escape was coming to an end. His body was like a dried-up oil lamp. If it wasn't for the person behind him playing with him, he would have died a long time ago. What made him feel even more humiliated was that the man was using him as a target to try out all kinds of spells and spells. The old man beside the man gave off a ruthless and cold aura. He would occasionally give pointers to the young man, and every time he gave pointers, Li Yuan would be in an even more sorry state. Of the remaining 8 flying swords, only 3 remained. The rest were casually grabbed by the old man, had their divine senses erased, and were thrown to the young man. Then the young man gave them to the woman beside him. A sense of grief and indignation brewed in Li Yuan's heart. The bell-like laughter and coquettish voice of the woman behind him made him feel extremely irritated. Along the way, he had suffered even more injuries. Because he had been fleeing for so long, he had no time to heal his right arm, so it was already rotting. There were even some white bugs burrowing into the rotting flesh. These bugs weren't maggots, but rather poisonous bugs released by the young man behind him. Li Yuan even had a feeling that the white bug was wriggling in his body, and even in his nascent spirit. It was as if his body had become a host for the bug at that moment. Li Yuan's speed became slower and slower. He felt his body become tired and the death aura became even stronger. His face was no longer pale, but rather a sickly red. The old man behind Li Yuan withdrew his gaze from Li Yuan and calmly said, "Young master, this person is already at the end of his rope." The young man smiled and said, "He's going to die so soon, but this person is not bad. He lasted for 10 days in Shursan. The cultivators before him only lasted for 8 days at most. Uncle Cho, next time catch a illusory cultivator for me." That way, I can play with him for a few more days and my 8-faced soul-devouring insects will mature faster." The old man's expression was calm as he slowly said, "Okay." It was a simple word, but it was filled with confidence. Beside the young man, the cute girl blinked her eyes and said with a smile, "Cousin, this person still has a few swords on him." The young man laughed as he wrapped his arm around the woman's waist and said, "I can't forget that these 9 swords are all yours. Not to mention these 9 swords, even if it's everything in the Thunder Celestial realm, as long as I want it, there is nothing I can't obtain. Let's go take a look after we find where he got the swords from." The woman covered her mouth and chuckled. Her eyes were charming and her voice was as beautiful as a lark. She said, "Cousin, as a member of the Yao family, naturally can do it." The young man revealed an arrogant expression. In the All-Heaven star system, even the Thunder Celestial Temple had to give him some face. As a member of the Yao family, it was just as he had said before. As long as you saw it, there was nothing you couldn't obtain. At this moment, Wang Lin, who was in the void, saw the fragment before him. In a flash, he arrived on this fragment. "I wonder where Brother Li is." Wang Lin's divine sense spread out, but his expression immediately became gloomy. A powerful killing intent erupted once more after he sealed the blood ancestor. Li Yuan's eyes were no longer focused and were filled with laxity. "Am I going to die? Fine, death is death. It's also a kind of release. However, Brother Su, I still haven't taught you the heart restriction." Li Yuan let out a miserable smile. He could no longer see his surroundings clearly. In his eyes, he could vaguely see a few white worms wriggling inside. But the strange thing was that Li Yuan did not feel any pain. "Even if I die, a member of the Li family must die with dignity." Li Yuan's eyes narrowed once more and revealed a hint of determination. He decided not to run anymore and turned around to look at the 3 people chasing him. Li Yuan's eyes were filled with intense hatred. "I have no grievances with the 3 of you. Even if you want my treasure, you can take it. However, the 3 of you have toyed with me like this. Even if I die, I will turn into a ghost to vent my hatred." Li Yuan slapped his bag of holding, and the remaining 3 flying swords immediately flew out. They gave off a sharp aura, and with a point of Li Yuan's finger, the 3 flying swords charged toward the young man among the 3. "You overestimate yourself." The young man sneered and his right hand reached out. A large, blood-colored hand appeared before him and grabbed the 3 flying swords. Li Yuan's expression was ferocious. When the young man grabbed the flying swords, his left hand formed a seal and he quickly pressed it between his eyebrows. A ray of black light as thick as an arm came out and split into countless threads. As Li Yuan's left hand formed a seal, they formed restrictions that emitted a mysterious force. The moment these restrictions appeared, they split from 1 to 18. In an instant, countless restrictions surrounded Li Yuan. He let out a roar and coughed out a large mouthful of blood that landed on the restrictions. However, there were a lot of small, white bugs inside the blood, making it look extremely shocking. After absorbing his blood, the restrictions quickly flew toward the young man. They were extremely fast and closed in the blink of an eye. At this moment, the young man had just barely managed to grab the 3 flying swords. Even as the restrictive spells descended, the young man didn't seem the least bit alarmed. He snorted coldly and his eyes shone with scorn. The old man next to him stepped forward and waved his hand, causing boundless vital energy of heaven and earth to fill the area. "Break!" The old man only spat out one word. In an instant, those flying restrictions were immediately filled with Yuan power. In an instant they shattered with a bang. However, after they shattered, there were black lines that did not disappear. Instead, they gathered together and formed a black restriction. With a trace of destructive aura, it charged towards the old man. The old man slapped his bag of holding and an ancient mirror appeared. In a flash, it surrounded the black line. The world suddenly darkened as if all the light was gathered on the ancient mirror. The black line immediately collapsed. Li Yuan's body trembled and he coughed out a large mouthful of blood. The death aura on his face had reached a peak. He let out a miserable laugh and muttered to himself, "It's not that my Li family's restrictions aren't strong enough. If I hadn't helped Brother Su, I would have used up too much of the heart restriction, and I wouldn't have had time to recover. If I hadn't done that, the restriction-breaking ancient mirror wouldn't have succeeded. However, Brother Su has helped my Li family greatly. Although this is the case, I don't regret it. If I die, then I die." Li Yuan let out a miserable laugh. At this moment, the old man took a step forward. He didn't even look at Li Yuan as he kicked Li Yuan. Cracking sounds echoed and Li Yuan coughed out another mouthful of blood. When his body fell to the ground, his vision was dark. That kick caused all the celestial spiritual energy in his body to collapse. He no longer had any power to fight back. "Young master, this person is no longer a threat. You can attack now." The old man retreated with a cold expression. He didn't feel any shame at all for an illusory cultivator to attack an ascendant junior. The young man had just barely managed to trap the 3 flying swords. Due to the collapse of Li Yuan's celestial spiritual energy, he had lost contact with the 3 swords. He grabbed them and threw them to the woman beside him. The young man laughed coldly as he took a step forward, and he arrived in front of Li Yuan before he said coldly, "Let me see exactly where you found those swords." As he spoke, he raised his right hand and pressed it down towards Li Yuan's head. "Cousin, hurry up." The woman smiled as she watched all of this. Her eyes were filled with charm as she played with the celestial sword in her hand. As for the old man, his expression was calm and indifferent. Just at this moment, the moment the young man named Yao's right hand pressed down on Li Yuan, a ripple suddenly appeared beside Li Yuan. The old man's expression changed greatly at this moment. He took a step forward and shouted, "Young master, quickly retreat." The young man was startled. In an instant, an unimaginable killing intent came from the ripple. This killing intent was so strong that it caused the world to instantly become cold. There were even snowflakes falling from the sky. The young man's face was pale. Ignoring the fact that he was searching Li Yuan's soul, he immediately retreated. However, it was at this moment that a figure appeared from within the ripples. The moment this figure appeared, the killing intent in the air exploded madly, reaching its peak. Thunderous rumbles echoed in the sky. The moment the young man retreated, the figure that appeared from the ripples stepped forward and pointed at the young man's chest. A series of cracking sounds echoed, and the young man coughed out a mouthful of blood. All the bones in his body were broken, and he was thrown back. The figure stepped forward once more and pointed at the young man's forehead. Dense origin energy entered the young man's body like a raging wave and instantly collapsed all the celestial spiritual energy in the young man's body. Popping sounds echoed and the young man's face instantly turned pale. In his eyes, that finger had replaced the world and had become the source of his life. His body was thrown back and turned into an arc. When he stood up in midair, popping sounds came from his body and large amounts of blood came out from his mouth. The blood turned into a mist of blood. The origin energy that rushed into his body erupted like crazy. First it destroyed his celestial spiritual energy, then it destroyed his Tao foundation. Finally, it forced all the blood in his body to his skin and sprayed out through his pores. At this moment, his body was like a person made of blood and his body was covered in a mist of blood. The origin energy in his body didn't stop. It continued to rampage and destroy every inch of the young man named Yao's muscles. Even his internal organs were crushed in an instant. Things weren't over yet. The origin power was too strong, so strong that it was inconceivable. After destroying his internal organs, it rushed into his head, shattering his hard skull and even his brain. In an instant, the youth surnamed Yao's entire body was completely and utterly destroyed. When he was thrown into the air, His body collapsed and dissipated before he even reached the halfway point. The nascent divinity inside was filled with confusion and unimaginable fear. It even had the urge to cry. Almost at the moment the body collapsed and the nascent divinity appeared, origin energy erupted one last time and rushed into the young man's nascent divinity. It tore it apart and completely destroyed it. However, it didn't dissipate. The young man's origin soul quickly condensed into a fist-sized ball of light that instantly returned to Wang Lin's hand. He grabbed it and pressed it between Li Yuan's eyebrows to nourish his dissipating origin soul. "Who gave you the right to injure my friend?" An extremely cold voice slowly came from Wang Lin's mouth. All of this happened in an instant, so fast that it was unimaginable. The old man had only just taken a step forward, and before he even got close, everything was over. Cold sweat broke out on the old man's forehead, which was a rare sight. His calmness was no longer there. His indifference had long since collapsed, and his calmness had completely disappeared in an instant. His eyes were filled with intense shock and even a hint of fear. Just now, he had not been able to see that person's figure at all. In particular, when that person appeared, the origin energy contained in that ripple almost caused him to suck in a sharp breath. What terrified him even more was the aura that came from the ripples. From his point of view, the young man that appeared had fused with the world. Too terrifying. I know all the corporeal yang cultivators that entered the thunder celestial realm. Who the hell is this person? His face was pale and he couldn't stop sweating. The powerful killing intent from the young man caused his mind to tremble. He subconsciously took a few steps back and even had the urge to escape. Not far away, the woman was completely stunned. The scene before her caused her mind to go blank. "Su! Brother Su!" On the ground, Li Yuan looked at Wang Lin with excitement in his eyes and struggled to say, "Help me! Kill them!" 3 chapters combined into one 9,200 words explosion, asking for monthly votes. Chapter 773. Li Yuan's voice was filled with bone-piercing hatred. If this hatred could become tangible, it would immediately erupt to vent the anger he had accumulated over the past few days. Wang Lin nodded. His gaze moved past the illusory old man and landed on the stunned woman's hand. She was holding Li Yuan's celestial sword. Wang Lin didn't waste any time and calmly took a step forward. With this step, he crossed several hundred feet and appeared before the woman. Only now did the woman recover from her intense shock. She had personally seen the youth with the surname Yao's body collapse with a single finger from the person before her. The sounds of the youth's body being tossed out still lingered in the woman's ears. With one finger, the body collapsed, and the origin soul of the young man, named Yao, was caught by the person in front of her. His divine sense was erased and turned into a mass of origin energy. This scene destroyed her mind and made her tremble. When she saw Wang Lin suddenly charge at her, the fear in her heart was ignited. The fear caused her to almost go hysterical and let out a scream. In her eyes, Wang Lin was no longer a person, but a devil, a terrifying devil that devoured souls. She subconsciously wanted to retreat and didn't even dare to resist. The only thought in her mind was to escape, escape, escape. Since she was young, she'd never been so terrified. Not only did this terrifying feeling destroy her consciousness, it even left behind a deep crack in her Tao heart. Even if she was lucky enough to escape this calamity, her cultivation would drop greatly in the future, and it would be impossible for her to improve it. Wang Lin's expression was cold and his eyes were filled with coldness. With one step, he arrived before the retreating woman. In Wang Lin's eyes, this woman's speed was too slow. At this moment, the illusory old man's eyes lit up. He didn't save her and instead quickly retreated. He pointed at the woman's pupils shrank and the fear in her eyes reached a peak. He pressed his finger on the spot between her eyebrows. Origin energy poured out and rushed into the woman's body like a raging dragon. Her body was not thrown out, but her body trembled and she froze in place. Popping sounds continued to echo from within his body. This sound was extremely familiar to the woman. It was exactly the same sound that came from the man surnamed Yao's body. From between his eyebrows, his Yuan Shun transformed into a ball of light and flew out. Wang Lin grabbed at the air with his right hand and directly threw it towards Li Yuan, who was on the ground. It fused into his body and turned into Yuan Qi to nourish his Yuan Shun. At the same time, it also slightly healed the many injuries in his body. The woman's body collapsed at this moment and disappeared without a trace. Even before she died, she still didn't understand why the person they had humiliated didn't tell them earlier that he had a friend with this cultivation level in the Thunder Celestial Realm. As his body dissipated, all of his flying swords and bags of holding flew out and landed on the ground. Wang Lin raised his head and looked at the rapidly escaping old man. He revealed a sneer and took a step forward. His body merged with the world and he disappeared. The illusory old man's mind trembled. He wasn't confident in winning against Wang Lin, who had suddenly appeared, so he quickly escaped. However, just at this moment, ripples echoed in the void before him. A powerful origin energy came out and caused the old man to stop. Wang Lin's figure stepped out from inside the palace. Next, it's your turn. There was a flash of coldness in Wang Lin's eyes. He raised his right hand and a bolt of purple thunder appeared. The moment this thunder appeared, the area within 1,000 feet was filled with purple gas. Lightning moved within the purple gas and quickly condensed into a bolt of thunder that was as thick as an arm and shot toward the old man. The old man's expression changed greatly and he quickly retreated. At the same time, his hands formed a seal and a red flame appeared in his palms. The flame gave off a high temperature and surrounded his body, forming a shield of fire. The thunder descended and landed on the shield of fire. Popping sounds echoed and the shield of fire immediately collapsed. The thunder charged in and landed on the old man's body. He coughed out a large mouthful of blood. His face was pale and he quickly retreated. At this moment, the old man was scared out of his wits. His scalp was numb and the shock and fear in his heart had reached their limit. As the old man retreated, he quickly said, "Senior, please allow me to speak." Wang Lin's expression was cold as he took a step forward and chased after the old man. He coldly said, "How many days have you been chasing my friend? Speak." As the old man retreated, he quickly said, "Sure San Tian. But senior, all of this was done by the young master of the Yao family." The old man tried to persuade him, "But our statuses are different, so I couldn't stop him." At this moment, he was extremely terrified of the person before him. A corporeal yang cultivator was not someone he could resist. Even he was only one step away from the corporeal yang realm. Sure San Tian. Wang Lin's eyes were filled with killing intent. He took a step forward and instantly caught up to the old man. His two fingers formed a sword and moved like lightning toward the old man's left arm. The old man's expression changed and he was about to dodge, but at this moment Wang Lin said one word. "Stop." That one word was like a demonic sound. When it landed in the old man's ears, he immediately felt an unimaginably dense origin energy fill the surroundings. His body was unable to move at all, and even his origin soul seemed to slow down like it was in water within the dense origin energy. This is the first day. Wang Lin's finger that had formed a sword landed on the old man's left arm. Origin energy surged out and the old man's entire left arm collapsed into a pile of flesh and blood that sprayed out in a fan shape. Large amounts of origin energy erupted once more and all the flesh and blood were completely destroyed. The old man's face revealed a painful expression. He wanted to struggle, but his body couldn't move at all. The second day, Wang Lin's two fingers moved again and pressed down on the old man's left leg. Origin energy rushed in and a large amount of the old man's left leg exploded. The veins on the old man's face swelled, and he revealed a ferocious expression. However, within this ferocious expression was a dense amount of fear. In his eyes, the terror of Wang Lin had completely replaced his mind. "This is the third day." Wang Lin lifted his foot and directly lifted the old man's right leg. Another bang immediately rang out, and in almost an instant, 3 of the old man's 4 limbs exploded. The old man let out a miserable groan. Intense pain drowned him like a tidal wave. This pain was too great, and under the stimulation, his origin soul finally loosened. As the origin energy flowed through his body showed signs of recovery. As he withdrew his foot, Wang Lin's right hand pointed at the old man's right arm. Large amounts of origin energy rushed in, and the old man's entire right arm, the only remaining limb, suddenly collapsed. "This is the 4th day. This wasn't the end." The moment the power of the stop spell dissipated and the old man regained his mobility, his body was filled with origin energy, and he quickly retreated. At that moment, Wang Lin's cold voice rang out again. "Stop!" The old man let out a sorrowful cry. When Lin Fan's voice entered his ears, it was like the sound of death, causing him to feel despair, as if he had fallen into an abyss. If he had known this would happen, he definitely wouldn't have touched a single hair on Li Yuan. At this moment, his mind was in a daze. Faintly, the words that the person before him said when he first appeared echoed in his mind. "Who gave you the right to injure my friend?" These words reverberated in his mind like a thunderclap. After the old man's body was stopped for the second time, Wang Lin took a step forward and his right hand quickly pointed at the old man's chest. Every time he pointed, the old man's body would tremble and blood would flow from the corner of his mouth. The 5th day. The 6th day. The 7th day. In the end, the old man's chest was a bloody mess. All the bones in his body were broken and blood sprayed out like mist. His entire body had lost all signs of life. "This is the last day." Wang Lin's right hand formed a palm and mercilessly slapped the top of the old man's head. With a crisp cracking sound, the old man's body completely collapsed and turned into a large amount of flesh and blood that dissipated in a mist of blood. His origin soul charged out and trembled in the air as he shouted, "The Yao family won't let you off!" Wang Lin's eyes were cold. With one thought, he slapped his bag of holding and the 1 billion soul flag appeared in his hand. He waved the flag, revealing the unwilling image of the blood ancestor. "Do you recognize him?" Wang Lin asked calmly. The old man's origin soul was startled. After taking a closer look, his eyes bulged out in shock. Although he didn't recognize who this person was, his appearance was 70% similar to the Yao family's ancestor. Without waiting for the old man to speak, Wang Lin already knew the answer from the old man's expression. He took a step forward and the origin energy in his body surged out, locking down the old man's origin soul. He reached out, and the old man's origin soul couldn't escape at all. It was immediately pulled back to Wang Lin's side. Wang Lin's eyes were cold as he grabbed the old man's origin soul and used the soul search spell. The large amount of origin energy made it impossible for the old man to struggle. A moment later, Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He wiped away the old man's divine sense and turned the old man's origin soul into a ball of origin energy. Wang Lin landed next to Li Yuan. He held the ball of origin energy and pressed it between Li Yuan's eyebrows. "Brotherly, I'll also give you some good fortune. Whether or not you can reach the illusory Yin stage will depend on your luck." Wang Lin's eyes lit up and his right hand pressed down on Li Yuan's chest. "Return." With a low shout, small white bugs immediately flew out from Li Yuan's body. These bugs were all incomparably ferocious. They wriggled around each other and emitted a fishy stench from their bodies. Wang Lin's expression was calm as he squeezed and the bugs collapsed one by one. He was recommending a book. Zhen didn't know the author, but he could tell that he was a newcomer like General. It was a book that Zhen had been reading recently. The book was very well written, and the name was Lai Kong. Jen rarely advertised for people, but this time, he sincerely wanted to help him. It wasn't easy for newcomers, and Jen's power was very small. After all, he wasn't a god, but he still tried his best. Chapter 774. Li Yuan's cultivation was already at the peak of the late stage of ascendant. The reason he hadn't broken through to the illusory Yin stage was because his origin soul didn't have enough origin energy. This time, Wang Lin used 3 origin souls to nourish his origin soul. In particular, the origin soul of the illusory Yin old man contained a large amount of origin energy. As a result, Li Yuan's chance of breaking through to the peak of the late stage of ascendant had increased a lot. After placing some restrictions around Li Yuan, Wang Lin sat down and began to ponder. The blood ancestor is indeed a member of the Yao family. From the memories of the old man, it turns out that the Yao family is this powerful, especially the Yao family's ancestor, blood god. There was a flash of coldness in Wang Lin's eyes. I, Wang Lin, have encountered many powerful enemies since I started cultivating. One more blood god isn't much, Wang Lin asked himself. Even if he knew all of this, would he let Li Yuan go just because the blood god was strong? Moreover, since he had already offended the blood ancestor, he had already made a decision. As long as I master the spell to merge with the world, even if the Tua Sun comes, I'll be able to escape unscathed. However, some of the memories in the old man's divine sense are interesting. Perhaps they will be of great use to me. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a decisive gaze. He sat down and began to adjust the origin energy in his body and continue to refine it. Once I absorb all the origin energy in my body, I'll be infinitely close to the second step, the early stage of nirvana scryer. Wang Lin pondered a bit before waving his right hand. 3 bags of holding and several flying swords flew toward him. These 3 bags of holding belonged to the 3 people. Wang Lin's gaze first fell on the flying swords. He and Li Yuan had found these swords inside the Celestial's storage space. After scanning the flying swords with his divine sense, Wang Lin moved and the 9 swords flew into the air. They landed on the ground and stabbed into the ground. 8 of them formed a circle and 1 stabbed into the ground. Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding, causing 9 animal bones to fly out. The largest one landed in the middle of the 8 flying swords, while the other 8 surrounded the flying sword that was stabbed into the ground. This scene was exactly what it looked like when Wang Lin first discovered them. After a moment of careful examination, Wang Lin used his divine sense to examine these 9 animal bones. There seemed to be a brand inside them that prevented his divine sense from completely imprinting them, let alone controlling them. Back then, he had suspected that the animal bone magical item might have a special way to open it. Now that he put the animal bone back into the flying sword, Wang Lin could immediately tell that something was different. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin's divine sense spread out and entered the 8 small animal bones. The moment his divine sense touched the bones, they suddenly trembled and a suction force came from them. Wang Lin's origin soul immediately felt this suction force. His eyes lit up and the origin energy in his body began to flow into his origin soul. Then, following the suction force, his origin soul split into 8 parts and entered the 8 animal bones. The suction force seemed to have no end and continued to absorb Wang Lin's origin soul. It was as if it wanted to absorb all of Wang Lin's origin soul. Wang Lin began to ponder. With a thought, he withdrew his origin soul from the beast bone. After that, he performed a series of hand seals and set down a series of seals in the surroundings. He also spread out the origin energy in his body to cover a radius of 1,000 zhang. Immediately, a white mist appeared and spread out in all directions. This mist contained his origin energy. If an outsider passed by and saw this mist, they wouldn't act rashly. This was because the origin soul inside the mist was filled with pressure. Even illusory yin or corporeal yang cultivators would be extra cautious when they saw this. This meant that there was a second step cultivator inside the mist that didn't want others to disturb him. If anyone tried to charge in, they would be attacked by the origin soul inside the mist. After dispersing the origin energy that had turned into mist, Wang Lin pondered a bit before spitting out the fragment stamp and fusing it with the mist. Only then did he relax and close his eyes. There was a flash of light from the top of his head, and his ancient thunder dragon origin soul flew out. It let out a roar and charged toward the 8 animal bones. The moment the origin soul got close, a suction force came from the 8 animal bones. Under this suction force, Wang Lin's origin soul split into 8 parts and entered each of the animal bones. After absorbing all of Wang Lin's origin soul, the 8 animal bones released a demonic light that became stronger and stronger. In the end, 8 rays of blue light shot out from the animal bones and gathered toward the flying sword in the center. This blue light also contained Wang Lin's origin soul. His origin soul underwent a transformation that he didn't understand and entered the flying sword through the blue light. The sword trembled and released bursts of sword hymns. Wang Lin's origin soul condensed inside the sword and immediately felt a powerful sword energy charge toward Wang Lin's origin soul. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed and the origin soul inside his origin soul suddenly spread out, forming a storm that immediately dissipated all the sword energy. However, the next moment, even more sword energy appeared, as if there was no beginning and no end. Something is wrong, this is a restriction formation. Wang Lin's eyes revealed the light of deduction as he sat down and continued to deduce. His origin energy formed a shield around him, and he ignored the incoming sword energy. After an unknown amount of time, Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He had seen through this restriction and with a thought, a restriction appeared around him and spread out in all directions. At this moment, the flying sword surrounded by the 8 beast bones released sword energy. The sword flew into the air above the beast bones surrounded by the 8 celestial swords. The tip of the sword pointed down and the sword energy instantly spread out. The sword energy split into 8 parts and entered the 8 celestial swords. Wang Lin's origin soul once again split into 8 parts and entered the 8 celestial swords. The experience from before happened again, but this time, there was even more sword energy. As Wang Lin's origin soul split into 8 parts, almost all of them experienced the same thing. 3 days later, the 8 celestial swords released sword energy at the same time. The sword energy gathered at the center of the beast bone. Wang Lin's origin soul charged out from the sword energy and entered the largest beast bone with 4 spikes. His origin soul fused with the beast bone, and at the same time, he left an imprint on the beast bone. A sense of enlightenment appeared in Wang Lin's origin soul. At this moment, he understood the beast bone very well. It was as if it was part of his body. After a long time, Wang Lin's origin soul flew out from the beast bone and returned to his body. Wang Lin opened his eyes. His face was filled with surprise and excitement. It is indeed worthy of being a celestial treasure. Without a specific method, it is impossible to imprint my divine sense on it. Once I successfully imprint my divine sense, I can immediately learn how to use it. Wang Lin stood up and waved his hand. The giant beast bone flew over and floated in front of him. This item is called the Withered Tao Pear. It is extremely powerful and is a true celestial treasure. Unfortunately, it was damaged by its owner during the battle with the ancient god. Adding on the fact that its owner died, it hasn't been fully repaired even now. Even so, its power is still shocking. It can be said to be one of the strongest treasures I have right now. Wang Lin reached out with his right hand. The beast bone immediately began to move as if it had come to life. It devoured Wang Lin's hand and then disappeared. A moment later, the image of a beast bone appeared on the back of Wang Lin's right hand. It was extremely lifelike. Wang Lin didn't put away the origin force fog. He looked at Li Yuan in the distance. Li Yuan's injuries had recovered a lot, and his origin soul was in the process of fusing with his origin force to make his final breakthrough. Wang Lin wasn't sure if he would succeed. While waiting for Li Yuan to awaken, Wang Lin opened the bags of holding of the 3 dead people. Although there were some items inside the bag of holding of the woman, Wang Lin wasn't interested. He only took the celestial jade inside and threw the bag to the side. As for young Master Yao's bag of holding, there were some items inside. As Wang Lin looked through it, his eyes suddenly focused on one item. It was a talisman. Compared to this talisman, everything else was nothing. Taking out the talisman, Wang Lin's eyes lit up. This was the second talisman he had seen in the Luo Tian star system. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and another talisman appeared in his hand. The 2 talismans looked similar, but the symbols on them were different. What exactly is this? Wang Lin spread out his divine sense and scanned the 2 talismans. His eyes immediately narrowed as he felt a slight fluctuation of origin force from the 2 talismans. If it was his previous cultivation level, he wouldn't have been able to detect it. Interesting. Could it be that this item is also a magic treasure? Wang Lin pondered a bit and carefully put the talisman away. He had a feeling that this talisman was extraordinary. Picking up the last bag of holding, Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he muttered to himself. That old man's thoughts were in a mess, but he was very clear about the Thunder Celestial Realm. He was ordered by the Yao family to take the Yao family to the Thunder Celestial Realm's hidden spell pavilion to obtain celestial spells. From the old man's thoughts, Wang Lin learned that there was a fragment in the Thunder Celestial Realm that was sealed countless years ago by the 4 great cultivation families of the Luo Tian star system. On this sealed fragment, there was a hidden spell pavilion of the Thunder Celestial Realm. The so-called hidden spell pavilion was to store celestial spells, and the celestial spells inside were completely preserved. However, this hidden spell pavilion was created by the Thunder Celestial Realm's Celestial Emperor and his subordinates, and it had its own rules. Whether one could obtain celestial spells inside depended on luck. For a long time, this hidden spell pavilion had become an exclusive place for the 4 great cultivation families, and outsiders weren't allowed to enter. The 4 great cultivation families of the Celestial Realm couldn't break the rules, so they could only seal this fragment. Every time it opened, they would send their family members here to try their luck. For a long time, this hidden spell pavilion had become an exclusive place for the 4 great cultivation families, and outsiders weren't allowed to enter. Hidden spell pavilion. Wang Lin's eyes shined brightly. Just at this moment, Li Yuan's breathing became rough and he slowly opened his eyes. He stared ahead and let out a sigh. Thank you, Brother Su. However, I might not be fated to be an illusory cultivator, so my origin soul can't contain that much origin energy. Li Yuan looked down at his severed arm. After he finished speaking, he silently pondered. Wang Lin raised his right hand and withdrew it. The mist formed by the origin energy immediately dissipated, revealing the world. His eyes became serious as he carefully looked at Li Yuan and smiled. Brother Li doesn't need to belittle yourself. The origin energy in your body nourishes your origin soul. Once you absorb all the origin energy, you will naturally reach the illusory stage. That day may be fast or slow, but it will definitely happen. Li Yuan's eyes shined brightly and he nodded. He stood up and bowed toward Wang Lin. He clasped his hands and said, Brother Su, you have done me a great favor. I will remember this favor and will never forget it. Li Yuan didn't say much, but his words pierced through his heart. Aside from gratitude, he felt nothing but gratitude toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin faintly smiled as he stood up. His right hand grabbed the only bag of holding he hadn't searched. He scanned it with his divine sense before throwing it at Li Yuan. At the same time, the 9 celestial swords on the ground flew into the air and landed beside Li Yuan. Return the item to its owner. Take care of the bag of holding. I believe the items inside will be useful to you. Li Yuan nodded and put away the flying swords. He picked up the bag of holding and scanned it. It was an ancient mirror. This item is called the restriction-breaking ancient mirror. There aren't many of them left, but they can break most restrictions. As he spoke, he threw the ancient mirror to Wang Lin. Wang Lin caught it with a smile and put it inside his bag of holding. Li Yuan hesitated for a moment before asking, I am no longer able to see through Brother Su's current cultivation. However, it is clear that it has greatly increased since the last time we parted. I wonder if the blood ancestor was destroyed by the storage space? The danger of the blood ancestor has been resolved. Although he is not dead, he is not far from it. Wang Lin casually said this, but when Li Yuan heard this, his mind trembled. He looked meaningfully at Wang Lin. With his intelligence, he was able to tell that Wang Lin's rapid increase in cultivation was definitely related to the blood ancestor. Wang Lin looked at Li Yuan and smiled. Brotherly, I'm going to travel the Thunder Celestial Realm to find all the celestial spells I can find. Are you willing to help me break restrictions along the way? With his current strength, aside from a limited number of people, no one in the Thunder Celestial Realm was his match. Even with Li Yuan by his side, no one could hurt him. Not to mention, with Li Yuan's restrictions, given enough time, he wouldn't even need Wang Lin's protection most of the time. Wang Lin had his own reasons for inviting Li Yuan. Li Yuan obviously knew a lot more about the Thunder Celestial Realm than he did, especially the restrictions. With Li Yuan there, it would be much easier to find celestial spells. Li Yuan's eyes were filled with pride as he faintly smiled and said, I'll do everything I can to help Brother Su achieve your wish. As long as I have enough time, I'm confident I can break all the restrictions in the Thunder Celestial Realm. For example, Brother Su, take a look. This was once a celestial ruin. Li Yuan's left hand pointed ahead. He was pointing at a plain. The weeds and branches on the ground rustled when the wind blew by. No matter how you looked at it, it was very ordinary. Li Yuan's one arm formed a seal. At this moment, his body was filled with origin energy. Some restrictions that were passed down in his family but couldn't be used because of the slave imprint could now be used. The sky darkened and the plain before him was lifted up like a canvas. As Li Yuan's seal landed, the plain slowly shattered, revealing the ruins of the city. A broken stone tablet stood in front of the ruins. 3 ancient words were written on it. Celestial Attraction Palace. Celestial spells can't only be used after mastering the chant. With my Li family's Annihilation Restriction Heart Restriction, I can use the traces left behind by the celestial spell to reverse engineer it. This spell harms the body, so my Li family won't use it easily. However, as long as Brother Su needs it, I'll help. Today's 2 chapters totaled 7,200 words. After the Blood Ancestor, the Thunder Celestial Realm will rise. Let's see how Wang Lin will become famous in the Thunder Celestial Realm as the Luo Tian. Chapter 775. Wang Lin's expression was neutral as his gaze fell on the broken stone tablet. After carefully looking at it, he moved forward and arrived before it. Li Yuan followed closely and looked at the stone tablet. Then he looked around the ruins and smiled. Brother Su, if I'm not wrong, this so-called Celestial Attraction Palace was a place where celestials traded before the collapse of the Thunder Celestial Realm. Wang Lin nodded and calmly walked toward the ruins. Along the way, he could see the remains of pavilions everywhere. This palace was very large, almost the size of a mortal city. The entire ruins of the city were extremely quiet. Only the occasional wind would blow through the ruins, bringing with it a sobbing sound. On the ground, only when the wind blew by would slight vortexes appear. These vortexes would gently pick up some dust and scatter it in all directions. From the surrounding ruins it could be seen that there were pavilions everywhere. However, at this moment they were extremely damaged, and there were even fluctuations of restrictions in some places. After carefully searching the ruins of the city, Wang Lin didn't find anything strange. It was obvious that people had come here many times during the Thunder Celestial Realm's opening. In any transaction palace like this, the largest shop must be on the east side. Li Yuan's eyes lit up and he looked toward the east. On the east side of the city, the ruins were even more serious. It was impossible to see the shop, only broken walls. Li Yuan took a few quick steps forward and arrived at the eastern part of the wreckage. He squatted down and lifted up a large boulder that had collapsed. He looked at it carefully and then performed an incantation with his left hand, as if he were calculating something. Wang Lin calmly arrived here and spread out his divine sense. However, he didn't find anything. A moment later, Li Yuan's eyes narrowed. He pointed at a spot in the ruins and said, "Brother Su, use your spell to attack this spot." Wang Lin didn't waste any time. He raised his hand and a bolt of purple lightning shot out. The purple lightning turned into a dragon and charged toward where Li Yuan was pointing at. When the purple lightning landed, there was a loud bang. The earth trembled slightly and all of the rubble in the ruins were moved. There, on the ground, there was a pattern without any ripples. This pattern seemed to be a formation that had been carved into the ground by someone. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a strange look. Li Yuan took a few steps forward and arrived next to the formation. After looking at it, he smiled and said, "Brother Su, as far as I know, even if it's an immortal shop, there must be a hidden compartment. It's just as I expected." Wang Lin nodded and said, "It seems like this hidden grid formation has been here for too long, and the celestial force maintaining its operation has already disappeared. That's why there are no ripples on it." Li Yuan squatted down and wiped off a large amount of dust with his left hand. After a brief calculation, he nodded and said, "That's right. And from the looks of the dust, I'm afraid that no one has been here for a long time. This formation is indeed like what Brother Su said. It has lost its celestial force and has become a dead formation." He then explained, "The so-called death formation is like this. Once it loses its vitality, it cannot be broken. However, I have a way to restore it. Brother Su, I need some time, so please wait a moment." With that, Li Yuan sat down in the lotus position, bit the tip of his left finger, took a deep breath, and placed it on the formation. There was a fluctuation of origin energy on his left hand. Blood slowly flowed out from the wound and entered the formation. Wang Lin calmly stood on the side and looked at the wreckage before him. He felt a sense of regret. The Thunder Celestial Realm must have been extremely spectacular back then. There must have been countless celestials, or else it would have been impossible to form a transaction palace of this size. There were also many shops in this palace. Standing here, Wang Lin could imagine that countless years ago, celestials came here on celestial treasures and celestial beasts. They were like mortals who came here to trade for what they needed. The celestials back then probably never thought that one day the celestial realm would collapse. While pondering, Wang Lin let out a sigh. He remembered the giant handprint he saw in the rain's celestial realm. That handprint was a spell that shattered the earth. Unfortunately, Li Yuan can't go to the rain's celestial realm. Otherwise, with his heart restriction, I wonder if he could reverse engineer the spell of that handprint. Time slowly passed, and Li Yuan's face gradually paled. The blood on his left finger slowly flowed down, spreading throughout the entire formation. Gradually, the formation seemed to be injected with life, and tiny ripples appeared on its surface. Li Yuan's eyes lit up and his left hand pointed to between his eyebrows. A black line flew out and turned into a restriction that landed inside the formation. Li Yuan's left hand quickly formed a seal and was about to place another restriction. However, just at this moment the restriction formed by the black line entered the formation. The entire formation suddenly spat out a bright pillar of light. This pillar of light pierced the sky. Even from far away it could be clearly seen. Li Yuan was startled. The restriction in his left hand dissipated before he could even form it. How is this possible? This is the first time the celestial formation has been activated. This is the first time it has been activated. Li Yuan looked at the pillar of light and his eyes became brighter and brighter. Wang Lin frowned slightly as he looked at the pillar of light. This pillar of light had appeared too suddenly. There was no sign of it before, so he couldn't stop it. Also, looking at Li Yuan's expression, it seemed like this matter was outside of his expectations. Wang Lin calmly said, "Brother Li." The Li Yuan took a deep breath. At this moment, the pillar of light gradually dimmed and shrank. It looked like it would soon disappear completely. Wang Lin spread out his divine sense and immediately found some clues about the pillar of light. There seemed to be a suppressed, celestial spiritual energy bursting out from the pillar of light. Li Yuan stared at the gradually dimming pillar of light and said, "If the celestial formation is opened with the correct method, then this kind of thing won't happen. However, if it is opened with other methods, the first time it is opened, the spirit will leak out. Only by releasing the spirit inside the formation can one enter." The first time? Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. That's right, this should be the first time this formation has been opened with other methods. Once the pillar of light dissipates, we can go in and see what is inside. Li Yuan stared at the formation and licked his lips. Wang Lin nodded. Suddenly, his expression changed and he looked into the distance. A moment later, he saw two rays of sword energy flying over. They gave off a powerful fluctuation of celestial spiritual energy. It was clear that they were attracted by the pillar of light and wanted to see what was inside. Wang Lin withdrew his gaze and his right hand reached out to the ground. A large piece of broken wall flew into the air and shattered into dust. Wang Lin waved his hand and the dust scattered like crazy. In the blink of an eye, the ash from the broken wall within a 3,000-meter radius formed a ring that spread out in all directions, as if it were an artificial barrier. Wang Lin's gaze fell on the slowly dimming pillar of light and he calmly said, "Anyone who enters will die." Although his voice was light, when it landed in the ears of the two people flying over, it was like thunder. Both of them were at the mid-stage of ascendance, and at this moment their minds were trembling violently. Even the sword energy under their feet became unstable. Terrified, the two of them stopped outside the ring of ashes and didn't dare to take half a step forward. The two of them looked at each other. Their faces turned pale, and they immediately withdrew their sword energy. One of them clasped his hands and respectfully said, "The two of us juniors are from the Luo Tian Zhao family. We will obey seniors' orders and not enter." The pillar of light dissipated faster and faster. Li Yuan's eyes lit up and he walked forward, waiting for the moment the pillar of light completely dissipated. Even the two cultivators thousands of feet away widened their eyes. They had never seen such a scene before, but after pondering for a moment, they guessed that there must be a treasure being born here. Although they didn't dare to steal it, they couldn't let go of a chance to gain experience like this. Perhaps it was because the activation of the formation was too big, but all the cultivators on the fragments saw it clearly. The first thought that came to their minds was that a treasure had appeared here. With this thought in mind, almost all the cultivators rushed toward the pillar of light. The two Zhao family members were the closest, so they arrived first. Not long after, several rays of light flew over from all directions. The people inside the rays of light all had different cultivation levels, but none of them were at the illusory Yin stage. Most of them were at the peak of ascendant. After these people flew over, they immediately saw the 10,000-foot ring of dust. They all stopped and didn't act rashly. Instead, they began to size it up. Their gazes fell on the 10,000-foot pillar of light that was about to completely disappear, and greed appeared in their eyes. However, when they saw Wang Lin, their expressions all changed. They could feel origin energy coming from Wang Lin's body, so they all retreated. No one dared to step within 10,000 feet. Wang Lin didn't pay any attention to these people, and even Li Yuan didn't pay much attention to them. A moment later, the pillar of light completely dissipated before everyone's gazes. The moment the pillar of light disappeared, a dark hole appeared on the formation on the ground. A celestial spiritual energy fluctuation came from inside, and even the people 10,000 feet away could clearly feel it. Greedy gazes that were hidden very well suddenly gathered inside the dark hole. A mysterious aura appeared in the hearts of the cultivators 10,000 feet away. If Wang Lin wasn't here, these people would immediately rush in. The temptation inside the dark hole was extremely great for cultivators. All of this was because of the unknown. No one knew what was inside the dark hole, but the more they didn't know, the stronger the mysterious feeling would become. Just at this moment, a crazy sword chi whistled through the sky, and a wave of heaven and earth yuan chi spread out in an instant, heading straight for this place. It was as if the 3,000-meter-tall barrier was nothing to this person. The other cultivators 10,000 feet away all revealed strange gazes and became restless. The crazy origin energy coming from the sky meant that a second-step cultivator had arrived. As the origin energy spread out, a yellow figure quickly flew over on a sword energy. Chapter 776. There was a person standing on the sword light. He was wearing a large, yellow robe that fluttered in the wind, giving him a sense of elegance. At this level of cultivation, it was impossible to tell his true age from his appearance. This person looked like he was in his 30s. His face was ordinary, but his eyes were narrow and cold. Dense origin energy came from his body. He had obviously reached the peak of the illusory Yin stage. As he flew over, the people 10,000 feet away from him scattered and didn't dare to block his way. He was getting closer and closer to the 10,000 feet mark. It wasn't that he didn't see the 10,000 feet of dust, nor did he not know what it meant. However, he didn't slow down at all and charged into the 10,000 feet mark. The origin energy from his charge caused the 10,000 feet ring of dust to be pushed back. This scene was seen by the surrounding cultivators, and they all looked over. In their eyes, Wang Lin was a powerful cultivator, and the yellow-robed young man was also a powerful cultivator. The two of them would definitely battle due to the dark hole in the celestial formation. A battle of this level was not common. Some cultivators even had the thought that if the two of them were seriously injured, they could take the risk and benefit themselves. Li Yuan's expression changed slightly. Just as he was hesitating, Wang Lin's calm voice entered his ears. "Brother Li, go down first." Li Yuan didn't say anything. He jumped into the dark hole, and the moment he landed, the young man in yellow had already closed in on him. Wang Lin's eyes were calm as he raised his right hand and waved it at the void. A bolt of purple thunder suddenly appeared. The moment the purple thunder appeared, it was surrounded by purple mist. The purple mist followed closely behind it as it charged at the yellow-robed youth. The young man's pupils shrank. It wasn't that he didn't see Wang Lin, but because of his special status and the fact that his family was rushing over, he didn't pay too much attention to Wang Lin. At this moment, he let out a laugh and his right hand formed a claw. 5 strands of black gas appeared and mercilessly clawed at the thunderbolt. The 5 strands of black gas immediately shot out and surrounded the thunderbolt. "Devour!" The yellow-robed young man let out a roar and the 5 strands of black gas turned into 5 black dragons. They opened their mouths and devoured like crazy. In the blink of an eye, they devoured the thunder and returned to the young man's side. As the 5 black dragons circled him, their bodies grew larger. In the blink of an eye, they turned into 5 dragons that were 1,000 feet long. This caused the young man's aura to increase greatly. "Fellow Taoist, your abilities aren't bad. Please wait a moment. I'm Tang Yinyun, and I'd like to explore the Immortal's Cave with you. What do you think?" The yellow-robed young man slowly said. In truth, it was not easy for someone of his status to say these words. If it wasn't for the fact that Wang Lin's cultivation was higher than his and was comparable to his brother in the corporeal Yang realm, he wouldn't have said this. As soon as he said this, The expressions of the cultivators thousands of feet away immediately changed. Some of them even exclaimed, "Tang clan! Could it be the Luo Tian Tang family of the southern region?" All of a sudden, the cultivators fell into deep thought. Wang Lin coldly looked at this person and calmly said, "You're not qualified." Tang Yinyun was startled. He had thought that Wang Lin might refuse and that Wang Lin's expression would change after hearing the Tang family name. However, he didn't expect Wang Lin to be so arrogant. His expression was gloomy and he sneered. "Then I'll have to bother you." As he spoke, he retreated and thought, "This person's cultivation level is higher than mine, so I won't fight him for now. It won't be too late to attack when my brother arrives." Although their Tang family wasn't a big family with an inheritance from the celestial realm, it wasn't small. A lot of people had come to the Thunder celestial realm this time, and they hadn't split up. They were all traveling together, and he was just a scout. Wang Lin's expression was neutral as he took a step forward. With one step, the surrounding 10,000 feet was filled with dense origin energy. He wasn't fast, but he calmly walked toward Tang Yinyun step by step. Tang Yinyun's expression immediately became gloomy and he quickly retreated. Just at this moment, a calm voice came from Wang Lin's mouth. "You're also not qualified to devour my thunder." The moment his voice rang out, the 5 black dragons around Tang Yinyun immediately let out painful roars. Lightning flowed through their bodies, and popping sounds continuously rang out. In the blink of an eye, there was a loud bang as one of the black dragons collapsed. At the same time, there were 4 shocking explosions as the other 4 black dragons also self-destructed. Under the impact of the powerful force, Tang Yinyun's expression changed greatly. His hands formed a seal and a black dragon mark appeared between his eyebrows. Black gas came out from the mark and surrounded his body. Only then was he not affected by the impact. He sucked in a breath of cold air and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. He was secretly angry. Wang Lin had attacked for no reason. He didn't show any hostility, so it was impossible for Wang Lin to know what he was thinking. However, before he could ask, there was a flash of coldness in Wang Lin's eyes. He raised his right hand and pointed forward. The beast bone tattoo on the back of his hand moved as if it was alive and flew out from Wang Lin's finger. In an instant, a giant beast bone appeared before Wang Lin. The 4 thorns gave off a cold glow. The moment the beast bone appeared, it flew toward Tang Yinyun. Tang Yinyun's expression was gloomy. As he retreated, the black dragon mark between his eyebrows flashed and black fog appeared again. This time, it contained origin energy. Under the origin energy, the mark between Tang Yinyun's eyebrows flew out and a black dragon charged out. It opened its mouth and mercilessly devoured the beast bone. This black dragon was about 10,000 feet long and gave off a pressure the moment it appeared. Its black body was covered in countless dragon scales, and they were covered in runes. This devour was like devouring the world. Endless origin energy fluctuations came from the black dragon. "Origin dragon devour!" Tang Yinyun roared. He didn't stop and quickly retreated. However, at the instant the black dragon devoured the dragon, 2 balls of ghostly flames appeared within the 2 black holes in the eyes of the beast bone. At that moment, the beast bone seemed to have awakened, and a murderous aura exploded forth. The murderous aura was incredibly strong, but it only appeared for an instant before disappearing without a trace in the next breath. All of this happened too quickly. When the murderous aura dissipated, the black dragon that was about to devour him suddenly widened its eyes. There was even a flash of shock in its eyes. Its huge body froze, and a gray color spread out from its tail. In an instant, its entire body turned gray. This gray was the color of stone. The black dragon, which had been condensed by the spell, instantly turned into a stone statue. Even the Yuan power outside his body had turned into stone at this moment. With a bang, the black dragon fell from the sky and smashed into the ground. This scene seemed to have frozen everything. Everyone who saw this couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Their eyes were filled with shock. This. What kind of treasure is this? Tang Yenyun stared at the fragments of the statue on the ground and his eyes were filled with terror. The hearts of the surrounding cultivators were pounding. They couldn't believe what they were seeing, and fear swept through their hearts like a storm. The distance between them and the cultivators had never been as dangerous as it was now. It was like a pool of lightning, and they didn't dare to take even half a step closer. Almost at the same time, these first-step cultivators all retreated. It was as if they were too close to the 10,000 feet mark and were afraid they would be affected. The cultivators who thought they could benefit from this fight between the two of them immediately gave up on that thought and broke out in cold sweat. The Zhao brothers secretly rejoiced that they didn't enter the 10,000 feet range, or else they would have already died. In their eyes, the 10,000 feet was not a distance, but a forbidden area of death. At this moment, these cultivators clearly remembered Wang Lin's appearance. Wang Lin was deeply ingrained in their minds. Wang Lin took a step forward and raised his right hand. The beast bone returned to the pattern on the back of his hand. He didn't slow down and arrived before Tang Yenyun with one step. His two fingers contained a sliver of origin energy and pressed down. Tang Yenyun's body trembled and his eyes were filled with terror. He didn't hesitate to teleport away. Just at this moment, Wang Lin let out a cold snort and the surrounding area was filled with origin energy, cutting off any possibility of teleportation. This spell was something that Wang Lin had researched himself. By relying on origin energy, teleportation would lose its effect. His finger landed between Tang Yenyun's eyebrows. Just at this moment, several rays of light flew over from the distance. A gloomy roar came from the front of the rays of light. "Kill him and you'll be buried with him." Wang Lin frowned. When his finger landed, origin energy rushed in and Tang Yenyun's body collapsed. He turned into a mist of blood, and even his origin soul collapsed. Anyone who enters the 10,000 feet range will die. Wang Lin turned around and walked toward the dark hole. The 10,000 feet range was his forbidden area. With him here, no one could enter. At this moment, Wang Lin had the right to say such words. At this moment, Li Yuan's cry came from the dark hole and he charged out. After he appeared, he looked at the black dragon statue in the distance and immediately sent a message to Wang Lin. "Brother Su, I've collected the treasures down there. I also found a secret passage, but I don't know where it leads to." A ray of light descended from the sky and turned into 4 figures. There were men and women, and one of them was extremely handsome, but his lips were thin and his eyes were gloomy. If Shengong who was here, he would immediately recognize this person. It was Tang Yanfeng, the person who mocked Shengong who at the Thunder Celestial Realm. 10,000 feet forbidden area? Who do you think you are? A middle-aged man beside Tang Yanfeng sneered and stepped into the 10,000 feet forbidden area. Behind him, there was a young man with a cold and arrogant expression. He also stepped into the 10,000 feet forbidden area. Wang Lin's expression was calm as he turned around and looked at the middle-aged man. Today's monthly votes have increased quite a bit. The first 4 days of the month have added nearly 30,000 words. The plot should also be in a small climax. I want to know which month the monthly votes will exceed 1,000 and whether it will surpass June. This is very important because it means that the Renegade Celestial is improving. Tonight, before 12 o'clock, there might be one more chapter. My parents told me to go over for dinner, so I might come back a bit late. I want to finish updating the 3rd chapter. Finally, I still need to ask for monthly vote. For the Renegade Celestial, this is a very important opportunity. Charge up and the sky will be clear. Chapter 777. Li Yuan's eyes lit up and he retreated back into the dark cave. He sat down in the lotus position and his left hand formed a seal. Black lines flew out and turned into restrictions that landed around him. His cultivation level wasn't high enough, so he couldn't directly help. However, as long as he had enough time, he could leave behind restrictions. He was confident that none of the people outside would be able to enter in a short period of time. This was tantamount to opening a path of retreat for Wang Lin. Wang Lin's gaze was different from the gaze he used to look at Shingong when he first saw the third step. However, this gaze was because Wang Lin's cultivation level was higher. He had sealed the blood ancestor, and he had killed 2 illusory Yin cultivators. His confidence in his cultivation and understanding of his own Tao made this gaze seem to contain everything. The middle-aged man sneered. When Wang Lin looked at him, not only did he not stop, he took another step. This step crossed hundreds of feet and he walked toward Wang Lin. What a joke! In the Thunder Celestial Realm, there is actually someone who dares to threaten a 10,000-foot forbidden area. However, his words instantly stopped. At this moment, he saw Wang Lin's gaze. This gaze was cold and calm, as if he was looking at a dead person. However, in the eyes of the middle-aged man, it was very different. The moment his body stopped, it was as if everything around him had disappeared, leaving only the other person's gaze. There was no killing intent in that gaze, only calmness. However, this calmness caused the middle-aged man's mind to tremble. The origin energy in his body cycled uncontrollably, as if this was the only way to offset the crisis brought by that gaze. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead. When the other party's gaze fell on him, he almost immediately felt as if his entire body was seen through, as if he was naked. This feeling was extremely strong. In the end, he felt like his skin had disappeared and his internal organs and origin soul were all exposed to the other person's gaze. Apart from that, the feeling grew stronger and stronger. It was as if his nascent divinity had completely changed under the gaze of the other party. It was as if his nascent divinity was no longer a nascent divinity, but a mass of vital energy. This was a feeling he had never felt since he began cultivating. It was as if everything in his body, be it his physical body or his nascent soul, had disappeared layer by layer under the gaze of the other party. In the end, he even had the illusion that he could no longer feel his own existence. A mouthful of blood surged up from his chest, and the middle-aged man's face immediately became sickly red. He directly coughed out a large mouthful of blood, and his eyes immediately regained clarity. However, within this clarity, there was a hint of fear. From the moment Wang Lin glanced over until the middle-aged man spat out a mouthful of blood, all of this had happened in a short period of a few breaths, and it was so fast that the others didn't even have the time to notice any clues. The moment the middle-aged man coughed out blood, Wang Lin moved. He calmly took a step. When his step landed, there was no sound, but the middle-aged man's expression changed greatly and he retreated without hesitation. He didn't know why, but when Wang Lin's step landed, he felt like Wang Lin was stepping on his origin soul. This indescribable feeling made his mind tremble. The reason he dared to walk out before was because he thought there were 4 people on his side and Tang Yanfeng was there, so he wasn't afraid. However, at this moment, he felt like he was fighting alone against a powerful corporeal yang cultivator. It was as if he didn't retreat, he would without a doubt die. Wang Lin's expression was calm. After his step landed, he raised his foot and took 10 steps toward the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's face became even more pale. He felt like every step Wang Lin took was like a thunderous rumble that almost caused his mind to collapse. His retreat was almost out of his control, and he subconsciously continued to retreat. He could even hear his own heart thumping faster and more violently as his opponent took a step forward. In the end, his heartbeat seemed to have merged into a single beat. After 10 steps, Wang Lin's body stopped and his foot landed under the cold gaze of the middle-aged man. The moment his foot landed, the middle-aged man coughed out a large mouthful of blood and quickly retreated, as if he had gone crazy. He didn't even notice that he had already retreated 10,000 feet from Wang Lin's forbidden area. When Wang Lin's foot landed, The middle-aged man's heartbeat reached its limit. Thump, 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 thump. His heart instantly collapsed. At this moment, the origin energy in his body went out of control. It rampaged through his body and rushed into his origin soul, tearing it apart. The surroundings were completely silent. Tang Yanfeng's eyes were filled with caution. Ever since he started cultivating, other than a few people, there were very few people in the same generation that could make him act this way. At this moment, not only was he cautious, but he also felt a sense of shock in his heart. He knew that if it were him, it would be easy for him to kill the middle-aged man. However, to be able to cause someone to collapse with just a gaze and a dozen or so steps was a divine ability that caused him to gasp. Based on his experience, he could naturally tell that the middle-aged man's death had something to do with origin energy. It was clear that Wang Lin's usage of origin energy was very clever. He used the surrounding origin energy to create a pressure that crushed the middle-aged man's heart. The woman beside him also had a gloomy expression. One step in front of her was the 10,000 feet forbidden area, but she didn't dare to take a step forward. It was as if this 10,000 feet forbidden area had truly become a land of death. Wang Lin withdrew his gaze from the middle-aged man and looked at the young man who had followed the middle-aged man into the 10,000 feet forbidden area. The young man's face immediately turned pale. His cultivation level was weaker than the middle-aged man's, and he had only just reached the illusory Yin stage. He didn't have much origin energy in his body and hadn't stabilized yet. When he saw Wang Lin's gaze, he retreated without hesitation. After retreating 10,000 feet, he quickly clasped his hands and said, "Senior, please don't blame me. I know I was wrong. From now on, I won't take even half a step into the 10,000 feet forbidden area. If I go back on my word, I'll end up like this." As he spoke, he raised his left hand and circulated his origin energy. His pinky finger immediately turned into a mist of blood. Wang Lin looked at the young man before withdrawing his gaze. The young man let out a sigh of relief and his heart beat wildly. Compared to his pinky finger, his life was more important. The excitement he felt from becoming an illusory Yin cultivator had completely disappeared. He kept telling himself that he had to be very, very careful in the future. Wang Lin didn't look at the other people outside the 10,000 feet. Instead, he turned around and walked into the dark hole where Li Yuan was. Just at this moment, Tang Yanfeng suddenly said, "Fellow cultivator, please leave your name." "Su Mu." Wang Lin's voice came from the dark hole. Then, the restriction on the hole flickered and completely sealed it. "Su Mu. I'll remember this." Tang Yanfeng wanted to make a move, but in the end, he held back because he wasn't confident he could win. To be continued. Chapter 778. Su Mu. Aside from Tang Yanfeng and company, all the cultivators at the first step remembered this name. They would never forget it for the rest of their lives. "His surname is Su?" The woman next to Tang Yanfeng frowned and her expression was gloomy. Tang Yanfeng was expressionless as he stared at the dark hole and slowly said, "You also thought of it." The woman nodded and said, "Although there are many people with the surname Su in the Luo Tian star system, most of them are unknown. For a corporeal Yang cultivator to appear, and such a powerful one at that, only the Su family of planet Dong Lin can produce. It has been many years since a descendant of planet Dong Lin has appeared. Could it be that this person—" The woman's pupils shrank and she didn't continue. Tang Yanfeng pondered a bit and then calmly said, "He is very strong. Even if he isn't the descendant of planet Dong Lin, he isn't far from it. My Tang family can't easily provoke this person." "What about the two dead family members?" The woman looked at Tang Yanfeng. "If they are dead, then they are dead." Tang Yanfeng's expression was cold as he turned around and left. He even gave up on the dark hole. The woman nodded and followed. As for the young man who had just reached the illusory Yin stage, he also quickly followed. He secretly rejoiced that he had made the right decision. A person that can make the young master so wary of him is not someone I can provoke. Su Mu. After Tang Yanfeng's group left, the surrounding cultivators all became hesitant. Although Wang Lin had already entered the dark hole, none of them dared to enter the 10,000 feet area. It was as if even though the source of the danger was gone, it was still a land of death. After a long time, these people all retreated and flew away. In the end, no one chose to take the risk. After all, what happened before had already made them tremble in fear. As these people left, the name Su Mu slowly spread among their respective circles of fellow Taoists. Only the formation on the ground gave off a faint light. After a long time, the light dimmed until there was no more reaction. It had become a dead formation. Before Li Yuan laid down this restriction formation, he had already calculated in his heart how to prevent outsiders from entering. The first choice was a dead formation that would naturally dissipate. The dark hole under the formation wasn't big, but there was a tunnel deep inside. It was completely dark inside, but cultivators could see everything clearly. Li Yuan was in front, and Wang Lin was behind. The two of them continued to move forward in the tunnel. "Brother Su," Li Yuan said, his eyes shining brightly, "I can confirm that we were the first people to enter the immortal realm after it collapsed. Look at the walls around us. There are still ripples of immortal power on them. If more people had entered, and the passageway had been open for a long time, there would have been no ripples." Wang Lin didn't say anything. Instead, he spread his divine sense out. However, he didn't spread it out too far. After all, this place was left behind by an immortal, so he had to be careful. Otherwise, it would be easy for some restrictive spells to activate. "Brother Su, I found 3 treasures in the dark cave earlier. However, these 3 treasures are a little strange. I'll take them out later, and you can help me analyze them." Li Yuan's voice was filled with doubt as he quickly spoke. "Okay." As Wang Lin spoke, his divine sense spread out in front of him. This tunnel didn't have any branches, only one that curved downward. This tunnel seemed to have no end. The two of them had been moving forward for half an hour, but they still couldn't see the bottom. Li Yuan couldn't help but be surprised. How deep is this place? Could it be an overlapping fragment? With doubt in his mind, Li Yuan moved even faster. Wang Lin followed behind, but his brow gradually furrowed. As they continued to move forward, he had a strange feeling in his heart. This feeling was like someone was pressing between his eyebrows, causing an indescribable swelling pain to come from between his eyebrows. The deeper they went, the stronger this feeling became. After the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. He grabbed Li Yuan, who was in front of him, and suddenly stopped. Li Yuan was startled. He turned to look at Wang Lin. Wang Lin said, in a serious tone, "Does Brother Li have a strange feeling?" Li Yuan shook his head and said, "I don't feel anything. What does Brother Su mean?" Wang Lin pondered for a moment. He looked at Li Yuan and his gaze fell on the space between his eyebrows. He suddenly said, "Brother Li, disperse the restriction on your forehead." Li Yuan nodded. The space between his eyebrows was the source of the restriction. At this moment, with a thought, he slowly dispersed it. However, the moment the restriction was dispersed, Li Yuan's face immediately turned pale. His eyes suddenly bulged and became bloodshot. He took a deep breath and activated the restriction again. Only then did he slowly calm down. His eyes revealed shock and he said in a low voice, "I feel it." A light flashed in Wang Lin's eyes and he slowly said, "Looks like I'm not the only one who feels this." As he spoke, he raised his right index finger. The origin energy in his body slightly surged and he began to draw in the air. Curved lines gradually appeared in front of the two of them as Wang Lin's index finger moved. These lines emitted a fluorescent light and under Wang Lin's drawing, they slowly formed a strange symbol. However, below this symbol, the broken end of the line was left on the ground, as if the symbol was incomplete. Does Brother Li recognize this symbol? Wang Lin asked in a low voice. It's a bit familiar. Li Yuan stared at the symbol and his eyes revealed a pondering expression. After a long time, he sat down cross-legged and carefully thought back to all the ancient books he had read in the past few years to find a similar symbol. After half an incense stick of time, Li Yuan frowned and said, "There are 4 similar symbols, but it's obvious that this symbol is not complete. I can't tell which of the 4 it is. Brother Su, where did you get this symbol?" Wang Lin didn't answer. Instead, he carefully spread his divine sense in the passage. After a long time, he raised his right hand and continued to draw the incomplete symbol in the air along the broken end of the line. Li Yuan's expression became even more serious as he stared at the symbol. In the end, his eyes were filled with shock. He recognized this symbol. "Brother Li, this symbol is the passage we are in. I only managed to draw it after spreading my divine sense along the way." Wang Lin said slowly. "Brother Su, you mean that someone made this passage look like a symbol?" Li Yuan stood up. His cultivation was not high enough, so even if he spread out his divine sense, it wouldn't be able to penetrate the passage. However, he didn't doubt Wang Lin's words at all. "Brother Su, this symbol is a type of celestial restriction. However, even among celestial restrictions, this symbol is extremely rare. It can't be used on its own. It can only be combined with other symbols to form a restriction formation." "What effect does this restriction formation have?" Wang Lin's eyes flickered as he asked. Li Yuan shook his head and said, "Unless we go to the end of the passage and see the last stroke of the symbol, it's impossible to tell what kind of restriction it is." Wang Lin fell silent for a moment. He looked at the passage ahead and said slowly, "If that's the case, let's go down and take a look." Saying this, he took the lead and flew forward. Li Yuan followed behind while performing hand seals with his left hand. This time, the two did not move quickly, but they did not stop at all. As they moved forward, the feeling between Wang Lin's eyebrows became stronger, causing him to look a little gloomy. After another hour, Wang Lin's eyes squinted. His divine sense had reached the end of the passage. When his divine sense could see clearly, Wang Lin took a deep breath and dashed forward. He took a turn at the corner of the passage and immediately came to a stop. Li Yuan, who was behind him, had also reached the end of the passage with his divine sense. His eyes were filled with contemplation. At the end of the passage was a vortex the size of a person. The vortex emitted a 5-colored glow, and as it rotated, the surroundings were shrouded in the light. Li Yuan stared at the vortex. His left hand immediately stopped and he said, "Brother Su, I've calculated it. This restriction formed by the symbols only has one effect, and that is to heal. If I'm not wrong, there shouldn't be only one talisman path that's similar to this one. There should be a total of 9 talisman paths. If that's the case, the 9 talisman paths would form a huge healing array. In the Thunder Celestial Realm, this can be considered a big deal." When Li Yuan got to this point, his eyes lit up and he looked at Wang Lin. There was one thing he didn't say, but he believed that Wang Lin would be able to understand. Wang Lin calmly said, "Healing formation. Brother Li means that there is a person inside the formation that has been using this formation to heal for countless years. Brother Su is correct. This is the only answer that can explain everything. However, I can't guess if there is someone healing, but if there is, then it must be." Wang Lin's eyes revealed a strange light as he slowly said, "A celestial. Although this vortex leads to the eye of the formation, it has been sealed from the inside. This is a bit strange. However, I'm confident I can open it." Li Yuan stared at the vortex with a strange light in his eyes. He slowly stepped forward and raised his left hand. Wang Lin frowned. Li Yuan wasn't someone who didn't know what was good for him, so how could he be so reckless? Wang Lin took a step forward, arrived next to Li Yuan and grabbed him. Li Yuan turned around and looked at Wang Lin with a strange light in his eyes. He slowly said, "Brother Su, didn't you want a celestial spell? What could be more knowledgeable about celestial spells than a celestial? Perhaps this celestial is very weak right now. After we enter, we can capture him in one fell swoop." A restriction formed in his left hand and he directly pushed forward. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed and he directly crushed the restriction. The origin energy in his right hand entered Li Yuan's body. Li Yuan's body suddenly tilted and he fainted. After doing all of this, Wang Lin turned around and looked at the vortex. After pondering a bit, he grabbed Li Yuan and slowly retreated. When he retreated less than 30 feet, the vortex suddenly stopped rotating and a gloomy aura came out. At the center of the vortex, an eyeball appeared. At the same time, a strange voice echoed in Wang Lin's mind. "What celestial spell do you want to learn?" Chapter 779. Wang Lin stopped and stared at the eyeball that appeared inside the vortex. He didn't speak. "Tell your friend to use that celestial restriction and I'll teach you a set of celestial spells." "Who are you?" Wang Lin asked after a moment of silence. "Learn it or not." The voice didn't answer Wang Lin's question. Wang Lin's eyes flickered. He grabbed Li Yuan and retreated toward the back of the tunnel. As for the voice that appeared in his mind, it wasn't that Wang Lin wasn't tempted, but he was a cautious person. This matter wasn't as simple as it seemed on the surface. Most importantly, even if he learned a celestial spell, with Wang Lin's personality, he wouldn't make the same mistake a second time after experiencing the celestial slaughter art. "I can only cultivate celestial spells if I find them myself. I won't touch anything given to me by others." Wang Lin's eyes were filled with determination. He circulated the origin energy in his body to guard against the eyeball in the vortex and quickly left with Li Yuan. Not long after Wang Lin left, the vortex slowly began to spin. The eyeball in the center revealed a sinister glow as it stared in the direction that Wang Lin disappeared in and slowly retreated. "I don't like cautious people." A red glow shot out from the eyeball and charged forward. In the end, the eyeball disappeared into the vortex and everything returned to normal. The only thing that remained was the red light that chased after Wang Lin and Wang Lin like lightning. Wang Lin's speed was extremely fast. He grabbed Li Yuan and followed the tunnel back to the dark hole. He pointed at Li Yuan's chest a few times. Li Yuan's body trembled and he opened his eyes. There was confusion in his eyes, but it immediately disappeared and was replaced by clarity. "Thank you, Brother Su. I was probably attracted by the strange force in the vortex." Li Yuan pondered for a moment and found the reason for his strange behavior. Wang Lin looked back at the tunnel behind him and said with a frown, "This place is too strange. We should quickly leave." Li Yuan nodded and didn't ask any more questions. He formed a seal with his left hand and shot out a restriction at the entrance of the dark cave. Just at this moment, Wang Lin's expression changed. He formed a seal with his hands and the might of thunder from his origin soul immediately spread out, forming a large amount of lightning around his hands. Without any hesitation, Wang Lin pushed his arms forward and the lightning immediately blocked the entrance. At this moment, with a flash of red light, all of the lightning immediately disintegrated. The red light rushed out and headed straight for Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression changed drastically. Within the red light there was an extremely familiar feeling. This feeling was transmitted to the depths of his soul, causing his pupils to instantly shrink. This is the limitless state. Without hesitation, he fell back. As he did, he merged with his surroundings, and the red light shot into Wang Lin's body. At the same time, the restriction at the entrance opened. As Wang Lin retreated, he grabbed Li Yuan and flew out. He didn't even have time to close the restriction as he teleported away. 10,000 kilometers away from the fragment, Wang Lin and Li Yuan appeared. The moment they landed, Wang Lin's body trembled. His face was pale and he spat out a grain of sand. This grain of sand instantly formed a large seal above him and released waves of pressure. Wang Lin immediately sat down and raised his right hand. The beast bone on the back of his hand appeared and circled around Wang Lin's body. Waves of ghostly light spread out from it. "Brother Li, protect me." After saying that, Wang Lin closed his eyes and placed his hands on his knees. The origin energy in his body surged like crazy and rushed into his divine sense. Li Yuan's expression was serious. He slapped his bag of holding and 9 celestial swords flew out. His eyes shone brightly as he protected Wang Lin. Although he didn't know what had happened to Wang Lin, he had never seen Wang Lin so serious since they reunited. "Just what kind of spell is that red light?" Li Yuan muttered. Within Wang Lin's origin soul, the red lightning raged and gave off a powerful killing intent. However, just as it was about to erupt, it was surrounded by the origin energy in Wang Lin's body. As a result, the red lightning was unable to unleash its true power. However, this thing was of the Ji realm. Its power was too great. Although it was surrounded by origin energy, it was rapidly disintegrating from the inside. Clearly, it wouldn't be long before it completely lost its effect. This was also because Wang Lin's familiarity with the Ji realm had already been engraved into his bones. He didn't panic and instead continued to circulate his origin energy to wrap around it. He understood the Ji realm. Although his origin soul had fused with the primordial lightning dragon, the scenes in the past had made it so that his origin soul was not completely defenseless against the Ji realm. After all, he was once a possessor of the Ji realm as well. This was why the red lightning didn't immediately kill his origin soul, giving him a chance to resist. If it was anyone else, even if their cultivation was higher than Wang Lin's, they would definitely die without a chance to resist. Fortunately, the origin energy that Wang Lin hadn't absorbed was extremely dense, so he didn't have to worry about running out. Instead, he continued to wrap around the red lightning with great determination. Layer by layer, it continuously melted away. In the end, it barely caught up to the rate at which the origin energy was disintegrating. While Wang Lin was resisting the Ji realm, a cultivator carefully approached the dark hole in the formation thousands of miles away with a hint of hesitation. This person was one of the cultivators that had been watching Wang Lin from thousands of feet away. He hadn't completely left, but had been pacing back and forth in the surroundings. He was thinking that once Sumu left, there might be some treasures that he didn't like that he could use. He had seen Wang Lin and Li Yuan charge out from afar. After hesitating for a long time, he slowly approached them. He stared at the dark hole, gritted his teeth, and cautiously entered. He followed the passage and advanced forward. Several hours later, he arrived at the end of the passage. When he saw the vortex, he was startled. However, a strange light flashed in his eyes, and he slowly walked toward the vortex. Just at this moment, the eye in the center of the vortex appeared again. "Get closer, come." A gloomy voice echoed in the cultivator's mind. As he got closer, he became completely lost. After a long time, a muffled sound echoed in the passage. The cultivator had activated his origin soul and self-destructed at the vortex. Not a single bit of his flesh and blood was sucked into the vortex. Not a single trace of him was left behind. The vortex had absorbed the flesh and blood, and had even self-destructed. Gradually, it showed signs of collapsing. This was especially true for the seal inside. Cracks appeared on it, and as time passed, more and more cracks appeared. In the end, the seal was completely destroyed. A ray of red light rushed out from the vortex and immediately filled the entire tunnel. Under the red light, the tunnel rapidly shrank. In the end, it turned into a runic symbol that had shrunk countless times. In a flash, it was pulled back by the red light and sucked into the vortex. The whirlpool slowly disappeared. Of the 9 great seals, I've already broken 5 of them in the past few years. With my strength, I can finally open the remaining 4 at the same time and attract people to break them. The gloomy voice contained a hint of joy as it slowly dissipated. At the same time, among the many fragments in the Thunder Celestial Realm, Powerful celestial spiritual energy fluctuations came from 4 of the fragments. These fluctuations attracted cultivators and gradually gathered toward them. However, there was a seal in the area where the fluctuations came from. Unless there was a restriction grandmaster like Li Yuantong, it would take some time to open it. When Wang Lin opened his eyes, his body was soaked in sweat. His face was pale as he took a deep breath and pressed his right hand on the ground. At this moment, he only needed a thought to force the red lightning out of his body. However, his eyes lit up and he withdrew his right hand. It would be too much of a pity to just remove this sliver of G realm. I might as well leave it in my body. At a critical moment, it might be my life-saving treasure. Wang Lin pondered a bit and looked inside his origin soul. If he left this sliver of G realm, he would consume a lot of his origin energy to protect himself. However, compared to that, the value of this sliver of G realm was too great. Wang Lin's heart pounded. After pondering a bit, he made a decision in his heart. He stood up and put away his treasure. Just at this moment, he felt the earth tremble. This trembling was coming from the passage 5,000 kilometers away. Li Yuantong saw that Wang Lin had recovered, but before he could ask, he also felt the ground tremble. The two of them didn't speak and quickly flew out. Brother Su, inside the passage. While flying, Li Yuantong looked back into the distance. Don't mention this matter again. It's best to leave as soon as possible, Wang Lin said in a serious tone. He moved even faster as he and Li Yuantong flew to the edge of the fragment and charged into the void. In the void, Wang Lin looked ahead and slowly said, Brother Li, I'm going to a place called the Collection Pavilion. If there are any restrictions, I hope Brother Li can help. In the void, Wang Lin looked ahead and slowly said, Rather than searching for immortal residences, it was better to directly go to the Collection Pavilion in the memories of the old man from the Yao family. There would definitely be celestial spells there. Li Yuantong nodded and said, I will do my best to help. He didn't know why, but after going through the passage just now, he felt a sense of fear in his heart, as if something big was about to happen. This feeling was very faint, but it was like a sharp thorn that had taken root in his heart. Many thanks, Wang Lin said calmly. Thinking back to the location of the Collection Pavilion in the memories of the old man, Wang Lin turned around and spread out the origin energy in his body. He brought Li Yuantong and sped through the void at an extremely fast speed. Wang Lin secretly thought, in the memories of the old man, the Collection Pavilion has a seal placed by the 4 great families. Unless one is from the 4 great families, they can't enter. I hope Li Yuantong can break the seal. As Wang Lin's origin energy spread out, the two of them turned into a ray of light and flashed through the void. They didn't go to any of the fragments but headed toward the center of the Thunder Celestial Realm, asking for monthly tickets to rush to 1000. Chapter 780. G Realm. What kind of person is sealed inside that 5-colored vortex? How could he have the G Realm? As they flew through the void, Wang Lin found it difficult to calm down. Although he looked calm on the surface, his heart was actually in a state of shock like a stormy sea. The end of the G Realm is the nascent soul stage, but in my life, I first met Na Duo from Planet 5 Element. That person had the G Realm and said that it was a gift from a friend. Aside from him, this is the second time I've met someone with the G Realm. Wang Lin's eyes were filled with contemplation as he flew through the void toward the center of the many fragments of the Thunder Celestial Realm. Could it be that there really is a way to increase the G Realm? Wang Lin's heart skipped a beat and his mouth felt dry. During the hundreds of years he spent with the G Realm, he had a bone-deep understanding of this unimaginable spell. Ji Dao beginning. Wang Lin's eyes were filled with contemplation. He knew too few things, so he couldn't analyze them in his mind. A moment later, he let out a sigh and no longer thought about this matter. Instead, he focused his attention on the Collection Pavilion. Flying through the void should have been very boring. After all, the void was too big, and most cultivators spent a lot of time on the fragment. Flying through the void was just a passerby. However, after Wang Lin and Li Yuan had traveled for more than half a month, they began to see rays of sword energy flying by. Some were close, some were far, and some were close. At the beginning, Wang Lin didn't pay too much attention, but as they continued to move forward, more and more cultivators appeared in the void after another month. Most of these cultivators were at the ascendant stage, and occasionally there were illusory cultivators. They were either alone, in groups of 3 to 5, or in groups of a family. This attracted the attention of Wang Lin and Li Yuan. The cultivators all had different expressions, but the excitement in their eyes was shockingly the same. These cultivators also saw Wang Lin and Li Yuan as they passed by. Naturally, some of them recognized that Wang Lin's cultivation level was above that of Ascendant. Their eyes were filled with vigilance, but they all moved around them. They didn't want to cause any trouble. Brother Su, something's not right. Could it be that something big has happened? Li Yuan pondered. He had seen too many cultivators along the way. This was extremely unusual in the void. Moreover, as the two of them moved toward the center of the fragments, they saw more and more cultivators. It was as if all the cultivators that had entered the Thunder Celestial Realm had flown out from their respective fragments and were heading toward the same place. Not just one direction. Wang Lin's eyes flashed as he slowly said, "It's 4 directions. What the hell is going on?" Li Yuan frowned and looked at the cultivators flying in the distance. Wang Lin pondered a bit and didn't continue to speak. He took Li Yuan with him and moved even faster. Just at this moment, more than 10 rays of sword energy flew through the void with thunderous rumbles. Powerful origin energy spread out, causing the surrounding cultivators to avoid them. They didn't dare to get in their way. These more than 10 rays of sword energy flew through the void with shocking momentum. They were filled with an incomparably domineering aura. Even some of the families with a lot of cultivators had their expressions change when they saw the 10 rays of sword energy and immediately retreated. There was no need to even mention the cultivators that were flying alone. The moment they saw the 10 rays of sword energy, they immediately stopped and didn't dare to steal their momentum. At this moment, almost all the cultivators in the void before Wang Lin looked at the 10 rays of sword energy and quickly moved out of the way. Wang Lin's expression was calm as he looked at the 10 rays of sword energy and didn't say a word. The 10 rays of sword energy didn't stop and charge through the void. However, just as they were about to disappear, one of the rays of sword energy suddenly stopped, changed direction, and flew toward Wang Lin. At the same time, the other rays of sword energy also stopped and turned into cultivators of both men and women. Without exception, all of them were above the ascendant stage. Most of them were at the illusory Yin stage, and only a few of them were at the corporeal Yang stage. After they revealed themselves, they all looked at the ray of sword energy that was flying toward Wang Lin with confusion in their eyes. Not only them, but the other cultivators in the surrounding void, whether they were alone or with their clansmen, all had their gazes fixed on the sword light and moved along with it. Li Yuan's expression changed slightly. He raised his left hand and secretly activated a restriction. Only Wang Lin's expression remained the same, and he nodded at the ray of sword energy that was flying toward him. The ray of sword energy stopped 200 feet away from Wang Lin and turned into a person. This person looked to be about 30 years old. His face was white without any facial hair, and he was slightly handsome. However, his pair of phoenix eyes revealed an incongruously feminine look. He was wearing a purple and gold robe. He stood up straight and clasped his hands at Wang Lin. His attitude was extremely respectful, and he said, "Junior Zhan Konglai greets Senior." The moment he spoke, almost everyone who heard him was startled. Their gazes all fell on Wang Lin at the same time. At this moment, although there weren't many cultivators, It was no less than the attention of tens of thousands of people. The gazes didn't cause Wang Lin's expression to change at all. He was still as calm as water. Zhang Konglai was very famous, so some of the surrounding cultivators recognized him. Even those who didn't, when they felt the dense origin energy coming from Zhang Konglai's body and heard his words, they immediately knew that this person was the Luo Tian Southern Domain's Zhang Konglai. Who is this person? His cultivation level is about the same as Zhang Konglai's. How could the famous Zhang Konglai of the Southern Domain call him senior? Zhang Konglai is rumored to have become a messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple. To be called senior by him, could he be an elder of the Thunder Celestial Temple? All kinds of thoughts appeared in the hearts of the surrounding cultivators. In particular, the dozen or so people that were traveling with Zhang Konglai revealed looks of disbelief as they looked at Wang Lin. They were all the leaders of their respective cultivation families. When Zhang Konglai suddenly turned around and didn't say anything, they were already surprised. Now that they heard him call Zhang Konglai senior, they became even more suspicious. It has to be said that Zhang Konglai's cultivation level was at the peak among them, and they knew that he was an extremely arrogant person. This kind of arrogance wasn't something he showed on the outside, but it came from his inner pride. Even the elders of his family were often looked down upon by him. It was very rare for him to be willing and respectfully called someone senior. Zhang Konglai was extremely respectful at this moment. This respect came from the bottom of his heart and wasn't fake at all. He was completely in awe of Wang Lin. Now that he saw Wang Lin, he naturally saw Wang Lin's corporeal yang cultivation, and his heart was filled with regret. He is indeed worthy of being a senior. Back then, he suppressed his cultivation to the ascendant level, so I couldn't see through him. Now that he has raised his cultivation to the corporeal yang level, I can't see through him at all. The respect in Zhang Konglai's eyes became even stronger. Back then, when he left, he was filled with regret and was extremely envious of Shengong who, even after he returned to his family, he was still a bit hesitant. He wondered if he should be like Shengong who and seize this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. With this thought in mind, when he heard that Shengong who had been punished by his family and had been abandoned by the Thunder Celestial Temple, his heart became very complicated. If he hadn't experienced this, he would have laughed 3 times and laughed at Shengong whose misfortune. However, after experiencing what had happened at the Lightning Reservoir, he approved of Shengong whose actions and felt sorrow for them. In fact, he even felt admiration for Shengong who in his heart. Li Yuan stared dumbfoundedly at Wang Lin and his mind went blank. He knew the name Zhang Konglai. Zhang Konglai was one of the 3 geniuses of the Southern Domain, along with Shengong Hu and Tang Yanfeng in the Luo Tian Southern Domain. They were all geniuses that had reached the corporeal yang stage in a very short period of time. However, right now, Zhang Konglai was calling Su Mu a senior. This caused Li Yuan to be in a bit of a trance. Wang Lin looked at Zhang Konglai and frowned. "Why are you in such a hurry? Where are you going?" When Zhang Konglai saw Wang Lin frown, his heart trembled, and he became even more respectful. He quickly said, "In the Thunder Celestial Realm, there are 4 fragments with dense celestial spiritual energy. However, there are restrictions protecting them, so they can't be broken in a short period of time. However, once the restrictions are broken, great treasures will appear. After Junior found out about this, I was prepared to go check it out." Wang Lin looked around. It was obvious that all the cultivators he had met along the way had found out about what Zhang Konglai had said through their own methods, which was why all of this had happened. Restrictions protecting them. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. After pondering a bit, he waved his hand and said, "Since that is the case, I hope you will be able to obtain everything." Zhang Konglai hesitated a bit and respectfully said, "Junior's confidence isn't high. I wonder if Senior has time. Also, Junior and Brother Shengong have an agreement to meet on the left fragment to seize the treasure." Wang Lin frowned even more and said, I have other important matters to attend to. If I have time, I'll go take a look. Zhang Konglai quickly nodded and his eyes were filled with excitement. Aside from when he was with Wang Lin, his family, and a few people from the Thunder Celestial Temple, he would never reveal this expression. Zhang Konglai thought to himself, since Senior has said this, then I'm 100% confident in obtaining the treasure. Zhang Konglai thought to himself as he respectfully retreated. He turned into a ray of sword light and returned to the group of cultivators. The cultivators with him all followed him with doubt in their eyes. It wasn't until they were far away that a woman in white couldn't help but softly ask, Big Brother Zhan, who was that person just now? Zhang Konglai faintly smiled. There was still respect in his eyes as he said, that was a senior expert. It was my fortune to meet him. Chapter 781. Under the gazes of all the cultivators, Wang Lin's body flickered and he stepped into the void. Li Yuan followed closely behind and the two of them gradually disappeared into the void. Along the way, Li Yuan wanted to ask many times, but in the end, he held himself back and didn't mention Zhang Konglai. Li Yuan's wisdom allowed him to know that there were many things that didn't need to be asked. Everyone had their own secret. Time quickly passed and in the blink of an eye, several months went by. As the two of them got closer to the center, they encountered more and more cultivators. Their speed didn't slow down, and on this day, they finally arrived at the center of the Thunder Celestial Realm. After arriving here, they could no longer see any cultivators. The surroundings were completely dark, and not a single person could be seen. Standing in the void, Wang Lin looked around. In the memory of the old man from the Yao family, the sealed collection pavilion fragment was here. Wang Lin said, Brother Li, do you see any clues about this place? The moment Wang Lin stopped, Li Yuan's left hand formed a seal and his eyes revealed the light of deduction. A moment later, his expression became serious and he nodded. There are indeed ripples of restrictions here. Although they are very faint, I can feel them with my heart restriction. This restriction technique is similar to a celestial restriction, but there are some differences. As he spoke, he pressed forward with his left hand. Immediately, a restriction flew out of his hand, split into 18 parts, and fell into the void in front of him. In an instant, an illusory outline flashed in the void and immediately disappeared without a trace. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. When the outline appeared, he vaguely saw a translucent continent appear out of nowhere. There was a towering pavilion on the continent, but it disappeared after a moment, so he couldn't see it clearly. Li Yuan said, Brother Su, I need some time. Li Yuan said in a deep voice. Every time he broke a restriction, there would be an aura of confidence around him. After he finished speaking, he sat down in the air and formed seals with his left hand, creating restrictions one after another. Sometimes, he would press his left hand against his brow, and a black line would flash out. Whenever this happened, the black line would sweep up the restrictions he had created, forming an extremely complicated mark that fell into the void. In the blink of an eye, the illusory image of the continent would appear once again. However, in the same instant it would disappear again. Its speed was so fast that it was impossible to rush through the gap. Wang Lin wasn't in a hurry. Instead, he focused his attention on the continent that appeared in the void. Gradually, as Li Yuan increased the speed of the restriction, the number of times the continent appeared also increased. Wang Lin stared at it unblinkingly as he slowly got a clear view of the continent. At the center of the continent, the huge pavilion was shaped like 4 sharp spikes that rose from the ground. They looked like 2 pairs of bull horns that pierced into the sky. On top of the 4 horns sat 4 people. These 4 people were motionless, and when Wang Lin looked at them, they didn't pay any attention. Wang Lin's pupils shrank and his eyes flickered coldly. Brother Su, if I want to completely break this restriction, I'm afraid it will take several months. However, if I don't break it and just send you in, with your speed and my restriction, I have an 80% chance of success. Brother Su, make your own decision, Li Yuan said in a deep voice. Wang Lin took a step forward and arrived at the edge of the flickering continent. He slowly said, "If that's the case, then send me in. Brother Li, hide yourself. This place is very dangerous, so don't get dragged into it. Once I obtain the celestial spell, we will leave." Li Yuan didn't waste any more time. He pointed at his brow with his left hand and several black lines flew out, intertwining with each other to form a seal. At the same time, he sent out a large amount of restrictions that merged with the seal, causing it to emit bursts of black light. Li Yuan's eyes lit up. He quickly pointed with his left hand and shouted, "Heart restriction destruction." The restriction seal immediately flew out and landed in the void. In an instant, the fragment appeared once again. However, this time, it flickered continuously. The moment the fragment disappeared, it reformed once more before disappearing again. This rapid cycle caused the scene before them to be filled with strange colors. As for the seal, it continued to emit a black glow. As the fragment flickered, it immediately expanded and formed a circular passage. However, this passage was not stable, as if it could collapse at any time. "Enter!" The moment Li Yuan shouted, Wang Lin charged forward. It was as if he had turned into a bolt of lightning as he charged into the circular passage. The moment his body entered the passage collapsed. The fragment, along with Wang Lin, disappeared into the void. "I hope Brother Su will be able to find something." Li Yuan pondered for a bit. His left hand formed a seal and his body gradually hid inside the restriction, not leaking any aura. The surrounding void returned to normal. Wang Lin's body moved like lightning and appeared on the fragment. The moment he charged out, his divine sense spread out. There was no void behind him, but a light curtain of restrictions. It was these restrictions that separated this fragment from the Thunder Celestial Realm and made it the forbidden land of the 4 cultivation families. The moment his divine sense spread out, it locked onto the pavilion at the center of the fragment. At the same time, one of the people in the 4 corners of the pavilion opened his eyes and coldly looked into the distance. Then his body flickered and he disappeared. Wang Lin's speed was extremely fast as he charged toward the pavilion in the distance. Just at this moment, there was a fluctuation of origin energy before him, and a person walked out. This person looked middle-aged, wore black, and had a cold expression. After he appeared, his right hand formed a seal and pressed down on Wang Lin. "Old man, I've been watching you for a long time. Trespassing into the Forbidden Land, die." His right hand formed a seal and a powerful force shot out. Wang Lin immediately retreated and his right hand pushed forward. The origin energy between the two of them collided, creating a thunderous rumble that spread out in all directions. The black-robed man's eyes were cold. He had already seen that Wang Lin's cultivation was the same as his, at the corporeal yang stage. At this moment, he took a step forward and pointed at the sky with his right hand. A powerful force suddenly descended from the sky. Shortly after, a bolt of celestial thunder suddenly appeared in the sky and descended on Wang Lin. "This is the Thunder Celestial Realm and the Collection Pavilion belongs to the Celestial Realm. Why can your 4 families come but I can't?" Wang Lin let out a cold snort and charged out. At this moment, the celestial thunder descended from the sky, but Wang Lin didn't dodge at all. Instead, the moment the celestial thunder descended, his origin soul appeared and devoured the celestial thunder. Thunder immediately moved around his body, making him look extremely shocking. The black-robed man was startled and his expression became gloomy. He obviously didn't expect Wang Lin to be able to devour celestial thunder. Just at this moment, there was a flash of coldness in Wang Lin's eyes. He opened his mouth and spat out a grain of sand. He pointed forward and the grain of sand immediately expanded into the fragment stamp. It gave off a powerful pressure and pressed down on the black-robed man. "Because you're not qualified." The black-robed man sneered and raised his hand. His hand formed a seal, but his expression immediately changed. His spell had no effect on the descending fragment stamp. The fragment imprint descended with shocking momentum. The pressure it emitted made the black-robed cultivator feel like he couldn't dodge it. In an instant, the imprint descended, causing a rumbling sound to echo out. The black-robed man's eyes were filled with shock. At this moment of crisis, he bit the tip of his tongue and coughed out a large mouthful of blood. There was a flash of blood light around his body, and he charged out of the pressure and appeared 1,000 feet away. The moment he appeared, his face turned pale and his eyes were filled with viciousness. Without a word, he turned around and left. Wang Lin raised his right hand and chased after the black-robed man with the stamp in his hand. The two of them charged toward the pavilion at the center of the continent one after the other. When the black-robed man arrived next to the pavilion, he immediately shouted, "Still not attacking?" The three people in the four corners of the pavilion opened their eyes. In a flash, they arrived next to the black-robed man and coldly looked at the incoming Wang Lin. The remaining three were all at the corporeal yang stage. At this moment, 4 corporeal yang cultivators stood together and formed a powerful aura that locked onto Wang Lin. A dense killing intent was emitted from his body. Wang Lin's eyes became cold as he slowly said, "The collection pavilion doesn't belong to your 4 families. Let me go and we can avoid a battle. Otherwise, even if I lose, half of you will die." One of them coldly said, "Unless you are a Nirvana Scryer cultivator, outsiders aren't qualified to enter the collection pavilion." One of them coldly said. They naturally saw through Wang Lin's cultivation, and the scene just now shocked them. However, with the 4 of them working together, they didn't care about what Wang Lin had said at all. At this moment, the black-robed man's aura calmed down. He let out a cold snort and stepped out. He slapped his bag of holding and a red flying sword appeared. He pointed at Wang Lin and the other 3 also charged out. The other 3 also charged out. One of them formed a seal with both hands and immediately, a gust of wind appeared, forming a vortex before him. The other 2 looked at each other and each formed a seal. Their spells formed a yin and yang pattern. As it rotated, it gave off a mysterious force and charged at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he immediately retreated. At the same time, he threw out the fragment stamp and mercilessly smashed down. The 2 people who had formed the yin and yang symbols immediately flew into the air. The yin and yang symbols in their hands flew into the air to fight against the fragment stamp. The 2 of them formed seals with their hands and used their own spells to stop the fragment stamp from descending. As for the other 2, they moved like lightning toward Wang Lin with magical treasures and spells. They were filled with killing intent. As Wang Lin retreated, large amounts of origin energy rippled out. It was as if his body had merged with the world. As he retreated, he suddenly stopped and took a step forward. With this step, Wang Lin's body disappeared without a trace. When he reappeared, he was behind the black-robed man. The black-robed man was shocked and suddenly turned around. The red flying sword whistled toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes were calm. He pointed with his right hand and shouted, "Stop!" In an instant, the black-robed man and his flying sword stopped completely. Wang Lin didn't hesitate. He ignored the flying sword and arrived before the black-robed man. His finger landed between the black-robed man's eyebrows and origin energy surged out. The black-robed man's body immediately collapsed. His origin soul flew out in panic and was about to escape when a karma whip appeared. It lashed out, causing the black-robed man's origin soul to let out a miserable cry and emit a large amount of origin energy. Just at this moment, the last person aside from the one dealing with the fragment stamp charged at Wang Lin with a powerful whirlwind. He was obviously going to stop Wang Lin. Wang Lin didn't even look at this person. The beast bone tattoo on the back of his right hand moved and flew toward the cultivator with the tornado. At the same time, Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and the 1 billion soul flag appeared. It turned into a black fog that devoured the black-robed man's origin soul. The black-robed man was about to fight back when he saw the blood ancestor's origin soul flickering in and out of the black fog. The black-robed man was shocked. The familiar face caused him to relax for a moment, and the result was the black fog surrounding him. All of this was done very cleanly. After collecting the black-robed man's origin soul, Wang Lin waved his sleeve, and the area within 1,000 feet was surrounded by black fog. His eyes revealed a strange light as he stared at the remaining 3 people and said, "I want to enter the collection pavilion." The 2 people fighting against the fragment seal felt their hearts tremble. Before they could speak, they heard another scream. The cultivator who had used the whirlwind spell was rapidly retreating. Before him, the beast Bone's eyes gave off a ghostly light and an unimaginable, almost monstrous killing intent filled the area. At this moment, the killing intent reached a peak. Even though Wang Lin was the owner of the treasure, he still felt his heart tremble. The killing intent was simply too strong. There was no need to even mention the other 3. The moment the killing intent appeared, it disappeared without a trace. However, the tornado of the cultivator with the tornado instantly turned gray and turned into a statue. Seeing the gaze of the beast Bone land on him, the cultivator's face turned pale and he immediately retreated. However, just at this moment, the killing intent appeared again. The cultivator's eyes were filled with fear. His right hand immediately turned gray and spread like crazy. In this moment of crisis, he raised his left hand without hesitation and cut off his right arm. He didn't care about the blood spurting out as he quickly retreated 10,000 feet away. He sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate. Even so, even though he had cut off his arm, the gray color didn't disappear. Instead, it appeared on his left hand and spread even faster. The cultivator's eyes were filled with despair. He clenched his teeth as the gray color spread all over his body. His origin soul flew out from the top of his head and abandoned his body. The moment his origin soul flew out, his entire origin soul turned into a stone statue without any signs of life. The only thing left in the air was his lonely origin soul. It was extremely bleak. The surroundings were completely silent. "I want to ask everyone, do I have the qualifications?" Wang Lin's gaze fell on the 2 cultivators fighting against the fragment stamp. His voice was filled with coldness, crazy for the monthly vote. Last month, the monthly votes were almost at 1,000, but now it was 100 votes short. It looked like he had no choice but to explode. Today it was 7,000 words, tomorrow it will explode with 9,000 words. Begging for monthly votes, sincerely begging for monthly votes. At this moment, the renegade Celestial was desperate for monthly votes. Crazy for monthly votes. Chapter 782. The cultivation families in the Luo Tian star system had a hierarchy that outsiders didn't know about. It was just like the rank 1 to 9 cultivation countries in the Alliance star system. In the Alliance star system, a rank 7 cultivation planet was the peak existence on the surface, but rank 8 cultivation planets were very rare. Rank 8 cultivation planets were extremely rare. There were only 3 in the entire Alliance star system. As for the most mysterious rank 9 cultivation planet, there was only 1 in the entire Alliance star system. The cultivation families in the Luo Tian star system were similar, but they had a long history. Only the families that had existed for a long time could have an eternal existence in the Luo Tian star system. In the Luo Tian star system, the most common cultivation families were from the 4 main planets. Their strength was about the same, and often there would be 3 or 4 families on a single cultivation planet. For example, the Tang family and the Zhan family were at the peak of this star system. Above these cultivation families were the 4 great cultivation families with inheritances from the celestial realm. They were the most powerful forces in the Luo Tian star system on the surface. Tracing back to their roots, The ancestors of these four great cultivation families were all celestials before the collapse of the Thunder celestial realm, and their statuses weren't ordinary. Similarly, above these four great cultivation families were two other families. They were usually low-key, but they were the truly powerful forces in the Luotian star system. Families with inheritances even longer than those from the celestial realm were those that had existed since ancient times and had survived the collapse of the celestial realm. In the Luotian star system, there were 6 of these families. The mysterious Yang family on planet Donglin and Li Yuan's family were one of them. However, after too much time, most of the cultivation families with inheritances from ancient times had declined. The Li family was an example. Aside from the Li family, there were 3 other families that had also disappeared. As of now, there were only 2 cultivation families with inheritances from ancient times left. Just like how the Alliance star system had a rank 9 cultivation country, in the All-Heaven star system, there was an existence even more ancient than the cultivation families that had existed since ancient times, the Ancient Era. The ancient cultivation families were the true powerhouses of the Luotian star system, and they were extremely mysterious. To be able to exist from ancient times until now, their foundation was terrifying. Just thinking about it made one's hair stand on end. This meant that this family had experienced the changes of ancient times, the collapse of the celestial realm, the journey of the Thunder Celestial Temple, and the changes of the entire Luotian star system. It was even possible that this cultivation family with inheritances from ancient times knew the secrets of the ancient celestial realm. Just their cultivation methods were enough to surpass the Luotian celestial realm. Aside from the rank 8 and 9 cultivation countries in the Alliance star system, Wang Lin knew about all of these things. While traveling with Li Yuan told Wang Lin everything he knew about these families. This was why, when facing the 4 great families with inheritances from the celestial realm, Wang Lin was very calm. In the sky above the fragment where the collection pavilion was located, the 2 old men that were working together to resist the fragment stamp pondered for a moment. One of them wryly smiled and said, "For fellow cultivator to have such spells and treasures, you can't be a nobody. I hope you can leave your name." Wang Lin's expression was calm as he slowly said, "Su Mu." The old man's eyes narrowed and he said, "Although fellow cultivator Su hasn't reached the Nirvana Scryer stage, with your strength we can't stop you. You have the qualifications to enter the collection pavilion." Just as he finished speaking, the other old man looked at Wang Lin and suddenly said, "Does fellow cultivator Su have any relationship with the Su family on planet Donglin?" Wang Lin's expression was neutral as he looked at the person who spoke. The old man hesitated for a bit before his eyes lit up and he said, "If fellow cultivator Su isn't someone from planet Donglin, then I, on behalf of the Chun family, would like to invite fellow cultivator to become a foreign elder of my Chun family." Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he revealed a smile. "It's not impossible, but right now, my goal is the collection pavilion. I hope the 3 of you can help me." Wang Lin's gaze swept past the origin soul that had lost its body. The cultivator that had lost his body let out a sigh and had a complicated expression. When he heard Wang Lin's words, he was certain that Wang Lin understood the collection pavilion very well. The collection pavilion could only be entered after it was opened, and the key to opening it required at least 2 people from the 2 families to activate it at the same time. What happened next was simple. With the 3 of them working together, they opened the collection pavilion. The 4 corners of the pavilion slowly trembled. The 4 corners gathered and touched each other. There was a flash of soft light and an oval door of light appeared where the 4 corners touched. "Fellow Taoist Su, members of my Chun clan have entered the collection pavilion no less than 100 times. Although obtaining an immortal art in this pavilion relies on luck, and everyone sees different things after entering, it isn't impossible to find. The longer one persists within it, the more precious the immortal art obtained in the end. I wish fellow Taoists Su great gains. The person who had invited Wang Lin to become a foreign elder of the Qin family clasped his hands and spoke sincerely. Wang Lin nodded. From the memories of the old man from the Yao family, he knew that the four families didn't have the power to set up a trap inside the collection pavilion. Moreover, everything before him was the same as the memories of the old man named Yao. Wang Lin no longer hesitated. He put away his treasure and arrived before the door of light. He took a deep breath and stepped in. After Wang Lin entered, the old man who lost his body sighed. If we knew this person was so powerful, we wouldn't have needed to do anything. We could have just let him in. With his cultivation, he will only be able to enter the fourth floor at most, just like us. The fourth floor is already the limit. However, who would have thought that this person's treasures would be so powerful? His cultivation is the same as ours, but it seems like he still has something up his sleeve. If he didn't know that he needed our help to open the collection pavilion, he would have killed more than one person in the battle just now. Indeed, from what he did just now, he clearly wanted to kill the two of us. If I didn't react fast enough, my origin soul would have collapsed like my body. The old man who lost his body bitterly smiled. Forget it. What's the point of saying all this now? Since he has entered, let him enter. The celestial spell on the fourth floor will depend on his luck, the old man from the Qin family said slowly. Fellow Qin, do you really want to invite this person to become a foreign elder of your Qin family? The old man who lost his body asked. The old man named Qin nodded and said in a deep voice, This person is very powerful. My Qin family needs such a person. Fellow Taoists, don't fight with me. If this person really becomes a foreign elder of the Qin family, then please pretend that you don't know anything about fellow Yao's death. As for fellow Lu's body, my Qin family will compensate you. Fellow Song, my Qin family will also get a small share of your share. Of course, the condition is that this person joins my Qin family. As the three of them spoke, Wang Lin arrived in a strange space. He was surrounded by a gray fog and couldn't use his divine sense. Faint murmurs came from all directions and entered Wang Lin's ears, but he couldn't hear them clearly. Just at this moment, the surrounding fog moved extremely fast and gathered before Wang Lin like a wave. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a person. This person's body was made of fog, so his clothes couldn't be seen. However, his face could be seen. This person's face was very ordinary, but there was an aura that was different from that of a cultivator. After he appeared, he calmly looked at Wang Lin. He raised his right hand, palm facing out, and didn't move. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. From the memories of the old man named Yao, he knew that although the people who entered the collection pavilion didn't have the same opportunities, there was one thing that was the test of cultivation level. After pondering for a moment, Wang Lin took a few steps forward. He arrived before the figure, raised his right hand, and pressed it against the figure's palm. In an instant, a strange force entered Wang Lin's body from the figure's palm. It quickly circulated around Wang Lin's body before returning. A low voice echoed in the surroundings. Rank 8 Upper Celestial. You can go to the fourth floor of the collection pavilion to choose a celestial spell. Wang Lin withdrew his right hand. His eyes lit up and he muttered to himself, Rank 8 Upper Celestial. How are the realms of celestials divided? Right now, my cultivation hasn't reached the peak of the corporeal Yang realm. If I did, what level of celestial would I become? At this moment, the figure formed by the fog began to slowly dissipate. Wang Lin knew that once it completely dissipated, he would be teleported to the fourth floor. Everything would depend on his luck. However, no matter how great his luck was, he would only be able to obtain a celestial spell on the fourth floor. It was clear that no one knew how many floors there were in the collection pavilion, but the higher one went, the higher the grade of the celestial spell would be. It was likely that on the highest floor, Even a very ordinary celestial spell would become a top existence in the lower floors. However, this test of cultivation couldn't be faked. Everything depended on one's own strength. This was also a type of luck. Only with a high cultivation level could one obtain a precious celestial spell. If one's cultivation level wasn't high enough, then everything was out of the question. Seeing that the figure in the fog was about to completely dissipate, Wang Lin's eyes lit up and an extremely bold idea suddenly appeared in his mind. The moment this idea appeared, his heart began to pound wildly and his mouth even felt dry. After hesitating for a moment, he clenched his teeth and slapped his bag of holding. A pagoda immediately appeared in his hand. His eyes revealed a strange light as he slapped the pagoda with his left hand. Immediately, the female corpse in white appeared before Wang Lin. Wang Lin took a few steps back and formed a seal with both hands. He circulated the origin energy in his body and guided the female corpse to raise her right hand to touch the palm of the slowly dissipating figure. Wang Lin's heart was pounding and he stared at the figure intently. In an instant, the figure formed by the fog showed signs of collapsing. Its entire body trembled slightly, and after a long time, a deep voice echoed. "Ninth rank Celestial Lord. You can go to the 9th floor of the collection pavilion to look up the celestial spell." Wang Lin's eyes were filled with excitement. He clenched his fists and immediately put the female corpse into the pagoda and his bag of holding. His heart was pounding. He was usually calm, but it was rare for his emotions to fluctuate so violently. Relying on luck to obtain celestial spells and looking up celestial spells. The meaning behind these two sentences is too different. Chapter 783. The figure dissipated and the fog turned into a staircase that extended from Wang Lin to an unknown end. Wang Lin took a deep breath and revealed a decisive gaze as he stepped onto the staircase. As he continued to move forward, the staircase behind him slowly disappeared. At this moment, on the fragment outside the collection pavilion, the three old men were talking when they saw a flash of light. This light became brighter and brighter until it was almost blinding. The old man from the Chun family looked at the light and calmly said, "This fellow cultivator Su's celestial fate is about to begin. I just don't know what kind of celestial spell he will obtain on the 4th floor." The cultivator named Lu, who lost his body, nodded and said, "There is a connection between cultivation and celestial fate. Although it isn't much, it can be useful at certain times. I'm afraid this person will be able to obtain a good celestial spell in the 4th floor." The last cultivator named Song didn't speak but stared at the light above the collection pavilion. His eyes shined brightly and he said, "Something is wrong." The Chun family and Lu family were startled. They looked at the collection pavilion and their expressions immediately changed. Above the collection pavilion, after the first ray of light, another 4 rays of light appeared. They stood side by side with the first ray of light and rushed into the sky. Rings of ripples spread out in all directions in the sky. Looking up from the ground, this scene was extremely spectacular. 5 rays of light. This person actually entered the 5th floor. The cultivator named Lu, who lost his body, stared at the 5 rays of light with a look of disbelief in his eyes. "It looks like we have all underestimated this fellow cultivator Su. His cultivation level is definitely at the peak of the corporeal yang stage. I fear he is half a step into the nirvana scryer stage and barely meets the requirement to enter the 5th floor." The cultivator named Song's eyes lit up an undetectable amount. The cultivator named Chun frowned and slowly said, "If he was at the nirvana scryer stage, it would be impossible for him to enter the thunder celestial realm, unless, before he finished speaking, more rays of light appeared above the collection pavilion. This time there were 2 rays of light that shot into the sky and joined the other 5 rays of light. The 7 rays of light were extremely magnificent, but when the 3 of them saw it, they were all dumbfounded. "Impossible, 7 rays of light, this is the 7th floor. Impossible." The old man named Song stared blankly at the sky as he muttered to himself. Having lost his physical body, the cultivator surnamed Lu's soul also stiffened. He stared blankly at the 7 rays of light, his mind completely blank. As for the cultivator named Shen, it was even more so. His eyes were filled with shock as he murmured, "What kind of cultivation level is needed to enter the 7th floor? That Su Mu's cultivation level is definitely not at this level. Could it be? Could it be that this person really has the kind of peerless fate that allows him to enter the 7th floor without needing to take the test?" Under the dumbfounded gazes of the 3, another 2 streaks of light flew out from the collection pavilion. 9 streaks of light pierced through the clouds. In the eyes of the 3, this scene was like a series of claps of thunder exploding. The 3 of them were speechless, and could only stare blankly at the sky. If there were 5 streaks of light, they could understand that Su Mu's cultivation might have been slightly concealed. Although it was a little surprising that he had entered the 5th level, it was still barely acceptable. However, after the 7 streaks of light appeared, they were shocked and couldn't believe that Su Mu had been hiding his cultivation. In particular, the 9 streaks of light shocked their minds. All of this could only be explained by great celestial fate. There was no other explanation. The impact the 9 streaks of light brought to the 3 of them was simply too great. It has to be said that even the ancestors of their respective families had only been able to enter the 8th floor when the Thunder Celestial Realm first opened. No one could enter the 9th floor. As Wang Lin walked, he reached the end of the stairs. With one step, his eyes lit up. He was in a pavilion. This pavilion wasn't big, and there were more than a dozen wooden lattices on the left and right walls. Inside each lattice was a celestial jade that gave off a soft glow. There was also a painting hanging on the wall in front of him. There was a tree in the painting, and half of the tree's leaves were withered. There was a boy sitting under the tree, and he seemed to be cultivating. In the upper left corner of the painting, there was a sentence written in ink. "Call the wind, summon the rain, magic arsenal, shatter the earth, collapse the mountains, and clear the dark moon." Looking at the painting, Wang Lin silently pondered for a bit. He couldn't find any clues, but he felt that the sentence on the painting was very interesting. Call the wind, summon the rain, these should be 2 spells, and magic arsenal should also be 1 spell. As for the second half, it's the same as call the wind, summon the rain, but clear the dark moon. What does it mean? Unable to see through the meaning behind it, Wang Lin withdrew his gaze and began to look around the room. This room was very simple. There wasn't even a table. There was only a stone mat on the floor that was deeply sunken in. It was obvious that someone had been cultivating on it for a long time. Wang Lin took a few steps forward and carefully looked at the mat. This thing was very ordinary, but when Wang Lin touched it, he was shocked to find that his hand had penetrated the mat. Wang Lin frowned slightly as he looked at the lattices on the left and right. A moment later, his expression became a bit gloomy. The joy from before was immediately swept away. Although there were celestial jades in the lattices on the left and right, they were like mat. They were all illusory and didn't exist at all. Wang Lin smiled bitterly as he observed. He discovered that everything here could be seen, but he couldn't touch them. It was as if he was in an illusion. If I had known this would happen, I would have gone to the 4th floor. It definitely wouldn't be like this. Wang Lin frowned as he looked around the room. His gaze finally fell on the painting in front of him. After pondering for a moment, Wang Lin's eyes flickered. He sat down cross-legged and stared at the painting in silence. The 9th floor that an immortal lord can come to is definitely not that simple. Perhaps this illusory scene looks like this to me, but to an immortal lord, he only needs to raise his hand to obtain it. It's a bit strange to have such a painting here. Wang Lin looked at the painting carefully. Time slowly passed, and Wang Lin's heart slowly calmed down. He was not willing to leave the 9th floor empty-handed. After analyzing it, this painting was very likely the key. He opened up his mind and focused his attention on the painting, wanting to find some clues within it. Gradually, Wang Lin's expression became calm. He stared at the painting without blinking. His entire mind was immersed in the painting as he silently comprehended it. As time passed, Wang Lin slowly closed his eyes. Although he had closed his eyes, the painting still appeared in his mind. He felt as if his entire being had entered the painting. After a long time, he opened his eyes and muttered to himself, "That's not right, there's always a barrier that prevents me from truly entering the painting." After pondering for a moment, his eyes suddenly narrowed and his gaze fell on the boy under the tree. He clearly remembered that the boy was just meditating, and his hands didn't have any seals. However, at this moment, the boy's hands in the painting were forming seals. This discovery made Wang Lin's mind shake, and he began to carefully observe the boy. Time passed again. In the blink of an eye, 7 days passed. After careful observation, Wang Lin discovered that the boy's hand seals would change every 4 to 6 hours. However, the changes were very subtle. If one didn't pay attention to the boy's fingers, it would be very difficult to notice. During these 7 days, Wang Lin memorized all the boy's hand seals. On the 8th day, he sat cross-legged on the ground and formed seals with both hands. He immediately formed all the hand seals. As the hand seals appeared, the entire pavilion suddenly shook. Wang Lin was startled and immediately stopped. He carefully looked around, pondered for a moment, and then continued forming hand seals. Similarly, when the hand seals appeared again, the entire pavilion shook again, as if it was shrinking. This discovery shocked Wang Lin greatly. His hand seals sped up, but the pavilion only shook a few times before stopping. Unable to understand, Wang Lin looked at the painting and his hand seals became faster. He gradually felt like his body was disappearing and his mind was floating toward the painting. When the last hand seal appeared, Wang Lin felt a boom in his head. His body tilted and he fell to the ground. His origin soul trembled, his vision blurred and he felt dizzy. When his vision cleared, Wang Lin's mind trembled and he looked around in a daze. His surroundings were empty, and behind him was a large tree. Half of the tree was withered, and at this moment a breeze blew by, causing the leaves to rustle. Looking down, Wang Lin found that he was wearing a Taoist robe. He had entered the painting and had become the boy in the painting. This scene was too strange. Wang Lin stood up and looked at the sky. He saw a few black ink marks in the sky above him. These ink marks were the words he had seen outside the painting. Call the wind and summon the rain, cast beans to form soldiers, the earth shatters, the mountains crumble, and the moon shines brightly. This line of words immediately changed under Wang Lin's gaze. They turned into drops of ink that fell from the sky like rain. In an instant, the surrounding void disappeared and was replaced by a clamor. Figures appeared in the void. Their faces couldn't be seen clearly, but after they appeared, they immediately sat down. In the end, the area around Wang Lin was filled with people. Bursts of soft chatter could be heard, but the strange thing was that although Wang Lin could hear them, he couldn't hear them clearly. A moment later, all the noise disappeared and a person walked out from the void. This person's body was also blurry, but the moment he appeared, a pressure filled the area. This person floated in the air and sat down in the lotus position. He seemed to be smiling and a clear voice came out. Today, Master Carefree painted for the first time the collection's Celestial Pavilion opened. Celestial Lord painted, and even called me here to watch. He invited all the celestial friends here to listen to my Tao while I paint. This is my Tao. As the person spoke, he raised his right hand and a gust of wind immediately appeared. This wind was black and filled the sky. As it swept the area, it turned into 9 black dragons. The roars of the dragons and their powerful auras caused the sky to change colors. As the black wind swept the area, the 9 black dragons opened their mouths and spat out a gust of cold wind. This unimaginably powerful force made people feel like their lives were like candlelight. If they were blown by this wind, they would immediately die. It was as if all living things in the world would collapse and die if this wind blew by. The mysterious power contained in this wind had exceeded Wang Lin's imagination. This is Call the Wind. The Grand Tao is simple, and Call the Wind is like this. It can extinguish the fire of all living things. Wang Lin's mind trembled and an unimaginable pain came from his body, as if it was going to be torn apart. His origin soul immediately collapsed and scattered. Just at this moment, a gentle force appeared from the void and wrapped around Wang Lin's broken origin soul. A clear voice laughed and said, "The Celestial Emperor's spell is extraordinary. This spell, Call the Wind, will be written on Master Carefree's painting. This painting will be placed on the 9th floor of the collection's Celestial Pavilion. In the future, those who are fated will enter the painting to comprehend it. Whether or not they can comprehend this spell will depend on their fated fate." At the same time the voice appeared, Wang Lin's broken origin soul was wrapped up like ink. Someone used a brush to write 2 words. Call the Wind. At the same time, a powerful force came from those 2 words. Wang Lin's origin soul reformed and was ejected from the painting. His vision blurred as he flew out from the painting and returned to his body that was lying on the ground. Wang Lin's body trembled and he opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with terror. The voice from the painting still lingered in his ears. Is this the fated fate? Wang Lin took a deep breath and stared at the painting on the wall. Everything just now felt extremely real to him. Celestial Emperor, Celestial Lord, and Master Carefree. Wang Lin stared at the painting and finally realized that the style of this painting was the same as the one he saw in the storage space. It was clearly drawn by the same person. After pondering for a long time, Wang Lin stood up. He didn't even look at the celestial jades around him and turned to leave. Compared to the celestial spell in his mind, everything on the 9th floor paled in comparison. After walking out of the 9th floor, a flight of stairs appeared under Wang Lin's feet. He slowly walked down, but his eyes were still in a daze, as if he hadn't completely recovered from the scene in the painting. Celestial spell, Call the Wind. As Wang Lin muttered to himself, he walked down the stairs until he reached the bottom. With one step, he disappeared without a trace. On the fragment where the collection pavilion was located, Chen, Lu, and Song had already recovered from the shock after a few days. However, they were still in disbelief about everything that had happened. Jealousy appeared in the hearts of the 3 of them without exception. This jealousy gradually grew stronger, and in the end, it almost replaced their rationality. After all, they couldn't guess what the celestial spell on the 9th floor was, but the more they thought about it, the stronger their desire to obtain it became. At this moment, the door of light on the collection pavilion flashed and Wang Lin's figure walked out. With a dazed expression, he passed by the 3 of them and walked into the distance step by step. The 3 of them immediately noticed that there was something wrong with Wang Lin's current state. They looked at each other and saw the decisiveness and viciousness in each other's eyes. "I'm sorry, fellow Daoist Su. Compared to recommending you to the family, I still want the celestial spell from the 9th level, especially in your current state. If you were clear-headed, I might have hesitated. But now that you're in a trance, it's a great opportunity destined for me by the heavens." The old man named Chen's eyes revealed killing intent. The 3 of them no longer hesitated and rushed out. They each took out their most powerful treasures and used their most powerful spells to charge at Wang Lin. Chapter 784. The cultivator named Chern had a handful of silver needles in front of him. Each needle was covered in a blue glow. His hands formed a seal and a giant shadow surrounded by celestial spiritual energy appeared around him. The shadow pointed at Wang Lin's back. The cultivator named Song had a yin-yang diagram in his hands. When he threw it out, there was a crackling sound and dense origin energy that caused the yin-yang diagram to shoot toward Wang Lin like lightning. He was behind the diagram, and his right hand formed a strange seal. A long strand of hair appeared. The moment the hair appeared, it gave off a powerful pressure and released a large amount of green mist. The last one was the cultivator named Lu, who had lost his body. He opened his mouth and spat out a small, crystal fan. He waved the fan and spat out a mouthful of essence origin energy. Purple flames surrounded the area and turned into 6 fire dragons. They roared and tried to surround Wang Lin to prevent him from escaping. The eyes of the 3 of them were bloodshot. They all had the thought of killing Wang Lin and obtaining the 9th level celestial spell. Their speed was extremely fast. Various spells and magic treasures closed in on Wang Lin. In an instant they closed in on him. Wang Lin's eyes were still in a trance. His mind was still filled with the incredible changes of the celestial spell, Call the Wind. When the 3 spells and magic treasures closed in, he subconsciously raised his right hand and muttered, "Call the Wind." After he said that, a black wind appeared in Wang Lin's right hand. The wind grew larger and began to howl. At this moment, the sky darkened as if the black wind had to retreat. The entire earth trembled and a powerful aura filled the world. All of this was because of this black wind, because of this celestial spell. It was as if the earth had a memory of this spell, as if the sky had once fallen under this spell. The moment the black wind appeared, the celestial emperor's spell that hadn't appeared for countless years appeared. The moment the wind appeared, it charged toward the 3 people behind Wang Lin without any hesitation. The moment Cultivator Chen's silver needles touched the wind, they were unable to resist at all and immediately shattered. As for the illusory figure on his body, the moment the finger pressed down, the black wind blew by. It was like blowing out a candle flame, and the illusory figure immediately collapsed. So this is the 9th level celestial spell. The cultivator named Chen's eyes were filled with fear and his scalp went numb. To him, this black wind was like a cold wind that could take his life. His mind trembled and he felt like he was facing the might of the heavens. He didn't hesitate to turn around and flee. He immediately teleported, but even though he was teleporting, when the black wind blew by, his body trembled and he reappeared. His eyes dimmed and his body collapsed. His origin soul was like a ball of fire that was extinguished by the black wind. All of this happened in an instant. Aside from the cultivator named Chen, the cultivator named Song's treasure also suffered the same fate. The yin-yang tattoo collapsed along with his body. When the black wind blew by, his eyes were filled with terror. He immediately abandoned his body and used his origin soul to escape. As for the cultivator named Lu who had lost his body, the fan in his hand also collapsed when the black wind blew by. He originally only had an origin soul, so he was scared out of his wits and quickly retreated. At this moment, the black wind suddenly disappeared as if it had never been there. Wang Lin's eyes were no longer in a trance and were filled with clarity. So this is the celestial spell Call the Wind. He took a deep breath. His face was extremely pale as he took a step forward and slapped his bag of holding. The 1 billion soul flag appeared. It trembled and turned into a black fog that shot after the cultivator named Lu. As for himself, his eyes glowed with a cold light. He spat out a grain of sand, which transformed into a huge seal that shot toward Cultivator Song's nascent divinity. In the blink of an eye, the seal caught up and slammed into the ground. The cultivator named Song let out a miserable scream as his origin soul emitted a large amount of essence energy. He immediately withered and his eyes filled with fear. He was about to continue to escape when the karma whip appeared and wrapped around his origin soul. Wang Lin grabbed it. "Fellow Taoist Su, please have mercy. I was wrong, I was wrong." Ignoring the pleas of the cultivator named Song, Wang Lin's eyes flashed with coldness. He crushed the cultivator's origin soul, turning it into a mass of origin energy that Wang Lin swallowed. A huge amount of origin energy circulated through his body. Wang Lin's face was no longer as pale as before. He let out a deep breath and his body flickered as he chased after the cultivator named Lu's origin soul that was trapped by the 1 billion soul flag. He made a grasping motion and the karma whip flew out. It lashed out at the black fog created by the soul flag several times before finally absorbing the origin soul. Wang Lin's eyes were cold as he reached into the soul flag and pulled out the cultivator named Lu's origin soul. If you kill me, the Lu clan will be your mortal enemy. The cultivator named Lu screamed, but his voice suddenly stopped. Wang Lin crushed the cultivator's origin soul, turning it into origin energy, and swallowed it. His face was slightly ruddy, but it was still pale. Without hesitation, he reached into the soul flag and took out the origin soul of the first black-robed man he killed. After crushing it, it turned into origin energy and was swallowed by Wang Lin. After swallowing 3 origin souls, Wang Lin sat down cross-legged and began to do breathing exercises. After a long time, his face gradually returned to normal. Even so, he was still a bit pale. Wang Lin opened his eyes and let out a breath of impure air. The breath he exhaled was actually black. It was extremely shocking. What a powerful celestial spell! I only gained a bit of enlightenment, but after using it, I was unable to control it. The amount of origin energy consumed by this celestial spell is too great. It almost completely absorbed all the G-realm origin energy in my body. If I didn't quickly replenish it, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, no matter how you look at it, this spell doesn't look like a celestial spell. It wouldn't be wrong to call it a devil spell. Also, the amount of origin energy required by this spell is too great. If I want to use this spell, I need to have several illusory yin and corporeal yang origin souls. Wang Lin stood up and took the bags of holding of the people he killed. He looked back at the collection pavilion and muttered to himself, "Unfortunately, I can't take this pavilion away. Otherwise, with the power of the 4 great families, they would have already taken out the celestial realm. However, I'm not willing to just leave it here. If I could take it away." While pondering, Wang Lin's eyes suddenly lit up. He remembered the words he heard in the painting. Master Xiao Yao painted the collection pavilion for the first time. Wang Lin's eyes became brighter and brighter. He remembered the handprint of the boy under the tree in the painting. When I used this handprint before, I felt the pavilion tremble. Wang Lin's heart skipped a beat. His body flashed and he immediately arrived outside the collection pavilion. He took a deep breath, formed a seal with both hands, and formed the handprint he learned from the boy. In an instant, the collection pavilion emitted bursts of light. Under Wang Lin's gaze, the pavilion became smaller and smaller until it was the size of his palm. When Wang Lin finished forming the handprint, it flew into his palm. Staring at the collection pavilion in his palm, with Wang Lin's willpower, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. His laughter was filled with joy. 9,400 words completed my promise, asking for monthly votes. Chapter 785. Since I've become enemies with the 4 great families, I have to be even more vicious. Wang Lin's body moved and he placed down all kinds of restrictions on the fragment. He did his best to place down restriction after restriction using the fragment as a foundation. This process lasted for nearly 10 days. Finally, Wang Lin charged out from the edge of the fragment where he first entered. The restrictions here only prevented people from entering from the outside. As for leaving, there was no problem. Half a month later, Wang Lin and Li Yuan flew through the void like 2 rays of light. Li Yuan's left hand was very sore and a lot of the origin energy in his body had dissipated. He looked at Wang Lin and wryly smiled. "Brother Su, I placed no less than 10,000 restrictions on the edge of the fragment. The combination of these restrictions is very powerful. I fear that unless the powerful people of the 4 great families personally come, it will be very difficult to break." Half a month ago, when Wang Lin came out, Li Yuan immediately appeared. Under Wang Lin's request, Li Yuan didn't use his family's annihilation restriction. Instead, he used other restrictions to completely seal the fragment the collection pavilion was on. Brother Li, I've finished my business in the Thunder Celestial Realm, so it's best if I leave as soon as possible. Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and took out a thunder furnace. He had killed a lot of people, so he could easily get a thunder furnace from his bag of holding. Li Yuan obviously didn't want to leave right now and asked, Brother Su, are you not going to take a look at the fragment with celestial spiritual energy fluctuations? Wang Lin shook his head. He looked at the void and said, I'm not going. The five-colored vortex appeared in his mind, and he had a bad feeling. Moreover, the excitement from obtaining the collection pavilion still hadn't dissipated. After obtaining such a treasure, his first thought was to leave as soon as possible. After all, this pavilion was very important to the four great families in terms of face and practical use. Once they found out, they would immediately launch a large-scale hunt for Wang Lin. However, the fragment was previously sealed, so it's not very likely for the outside world to know what happened here. He did not tell Li Yuan about the matter of obtaining the collection pavilion. After all, this matter was too important. With Wang Lin's cautiousness, he would not say it unless he was completely confident. Li Yuan pondered a bit and nodded. That's fine, it's fine to leave. If you want to leave the Thunder Celestial Realm, you must go to a specific place. In the entire Thunder Celestial Realm, only by going to the gate to the Celestial Realm can you use the Thunder Furnace to return. Wang Lin nodded slightly. He had heard about this from Shengong Hu a long time ago. The two of them made up their minds and quickly flew through the void. The gate to the Thunder Celestial Realm was far to the west. Wang Lin was still a long way from there. As the two of them flew, a shocking change occurred in the Thunder Celestial Realm. Among the many fragments of the Thunder Celestial Realm, there was a large amount of cultivators gathered on the four fragments where the powerful celestial spiritual energy fluctuations had appeared. Almost all the cultivators that came to the Thunder Celestial Realm had found out about the celestial spiritual energy fluctuations through their own methods and quickly arrived. As the celestial spiritual energy fluctuations spread out, four ancient restrictions appeared on the four fragments. Some of these restrictions were in the mountains and some appeared along with large amounts of ruins. The celestial spiritual energy was coming from the restrictions. As a result, as cultivators gathered, there would naturally be restriction masters. After the various powerhouses reached an agreement, the restriction masters would begin to break the restrictions one by one. The celestial spiritual energy fluctuations came from the four fragments in the east, west, south, and north directions. At this moment, on the western fragment, Shengong Hu calmly looked at the plain in front of him. There was an ancient restriction on the plain, and it covered an area of 10,000 feet. Dense celestial spiritual energy fluctuations came from the restriction and spread into the distance. There was a large amount of cultivators gathered outside this restriction. They were often in groups of 3 to 5 and were staring at the restriction. There were also some restriction masters trying to break it. Shengong Hu frowned. He clearly remembered that he had come here a few months ago. At that time, there were no restrictions here, so why had such a large restriction appeared in just a few short months? As he pondered, an inexplicable sense of crisis appeared in his heart. At this moment, rays of light flew across the sky and more than 10 rays of sword energy flew toward this place. They turned into cultivators, and the one at the front was Zhang Konglai. He immediately saw Shengong Hu, who was alone, and arrived before Shengong Hu. He clasped his hands and smiled. Brother Shengong came so early. Shengong Hu frowned slightly and calmly said, You came late. Zhang Konglai faintly smiled and stood next to Shengong Hu. His gaze fell on the restriction in the distance and he asked, Does Brother Shengong know who I met on the way here? I don't know. Shengong Hu's expression was neutral, as if he wasn't interested in this at all. He only looked at the plain and pondered. Jean Conglai already knew Shingong Hu's temperament and said, "It was Senior." Shingong Hu's eyes lit up. He turned to look at Jean Conglai and asked, "Is that true?" Jean Conglai smiled. "It's absolutely true. Senior said that if he had time, he would come here." There was a flash of joy in Shingong Hu's eyes. He looked at Jean Conglai a lot more pleasing to the eye. He smiled and said, "With Lord's temperament, I'm afraid he would be interested in the strangeness of this place." Jean Conglai looked at the plain before him and nodded. "I presume Brother Shingong has also noticed that the formation here is too strange." Before he finished speaking, the formation on the plain in front of him shined brightly. The fluctuations of the formation spread out and cries of surprise came from the cultivators around the formation. Shortly after, a few people who were familiar with restrictions flew out and placed their own seals on the formation to speed up the process of breaking it. There were many experts outside the formation, and most of them were from families. They were scattered and didn't come into contact with each other. They had a tacit understanding and didn't fight each other while breaking the formation. As more and more formations were broken, the northern fragment was the first to have its restriction broken. A curved passage appeared before the cultivators of the northern fragment, and a cultivator charged in first. The passage was very long, and after that cultivator, the others also entered. Several hours later, the miserable screams of the cultivator that charged in first echoed through the passage. At the same time, a ray of red light appeared in the passage. The entire passage collapsed and dissipated. This strange scene shocked all the cultivators inside the passage, and they quickly escaped. However, under the red light they all died miserably. Only a few cultivators survived this upheaval. At the same time, the restrictions on the eastern fragment were opened as well. As a high number of cultivators entered the passageway, the same thing happened again. When the first cultivator to reach the end saw a 5-colored vortex, he blew himself up, causing the entire passageway to be filled with red light. This series of changes hadn't ended, and a tragedy occurred once more on the southern fragment. At this moment, the Thunder Celestial Realm was covered in blood. Just at this moment, a large amount of fluctuations came from the formation on the western fragment where Shingong Hu and Jean Conglai were. As the fluctuations became more and more intense, the cultivators that were breaking the restriction all began to use their own method. A moment later, the fluctuations turned into countless shockwaves that spread in all directions. The formation was broken. A dark hole appeared on the ground and dense celestial spiritual energy came out, forming a pillar of light that shot into the sky. Some cultivators couldn't hold it in any longer and charged out. They ignored the burning celestial spiritual energy and directly entered the hole. With someone taking the lead, the other cultivators all charged in. Shingong, who didn't move, and Jean Conglai also didn't move. The two of them looked at each other and saw the deep doubt in each other's eyes. This formation is a bit too easy to break. Aside from the two of them, there were some other cultivators that didn't act rashly. Most of them had broken through the peak of the late stage of Ascendant and were at the illusory end stage. After a long time, as more and more cultivators entered the tunnel, a muffled sound suddenly rang out, followed by screams of pain. The ground trembled, and in an instant the tunnel collapsed, along with the cultivators inside. They disappeared. The expressions of Shingong Hu and company changed greatly. They flew into the air and their eyes were filled with shock. At this moment, all the restrictions on the 4 fragments had been broken and the passages collapsed one by one. An unimaginable amount of celestial spiritual energy suddenly spread out from the Thunder Celestial Realm. At the same time, there were 9 fragments in the Thunder Celestial Realm that trembled violently. 9 different runes appeared out of nowhere on the fragments. These marks were deeply engraved in the earth and gave off a powerful red glow. This sudden change caused all the cultivators in the Thunder Celestial Realm to feel a sense of fear that came from their souls. One of the 9 fragments collapsed. This wasn't due to a power beyond the Nirvana Scryer stage, but a powerful aura beyond the Nirvana Scryer stage erupted from within. Under the impact of this aura, the fragments collapsed layer by layer. A terrifying aura charged out from the center of the fragment. The escaping cultivators were horrified to find that the aura that charged out was a severed arm. This severed arm was obviously sealed here countless years ago. Now that the 9 seals had been broken, the severed arm regained its freedom. It flew directly toward the center of the Thunder Celestial Realm. The moment the severed arm appeared, 7 of the remaining 8 fragments collapsed. In the end, 2 severed arms, 2 severed legs, a head with only a left eye, and a torso that was divided into 3 parts flew toward the center of the Thunder Celestial Realm. The head had a grin on its face. As it flew out, it would devour any cultivator it encountered. The cultivator's body would immediately collapse and their origin soul would be devoured by the head. This caused the head's left eye to become brighter and brighter. They were extremely fast, far faster than cultivators. It was as if they were teleporting and left afterimages in the void. Wang Lin and Li Yuan turned into rays of light and flew toward the west. As they flew, a gloomy aura spread out. This aura was very dense, like an invisible fog that spread out from the distance. Li Yuan's expression changed slightly. Just as he was about to spread out his divine sense to check, a ray of red light suddenly appeared in the distance. This red light was very dense and rushed toward them like crazy. Li Yuan gasped. He clearly saw that there was a severed arm inside the red light. Chapter 786. Wang Lin grabbed Li Yuan and pulled him back. His eyes were like lightning as he stared at the red light in front of him. The severed arm within the red glow was completely red, and its 5 fingers were withered and withered. However, just looking at it would cause a chill to rise up from the bottom of one's heart. That was especially true of the sharp fingernails, which seemed capable of ripping apart the air as they shot out. When Wang Lin's gaze fell on the arm, it seemed to have a mind of its own. It sensed Wang Lin and changed direction to charge at Wang Lin. When it was still a distance away, it slashed through the air. Immediately, a loud rumbling sound echoed out as 5 long cracks appeared in the air and shot toward Wang Lin. It was as if 5 cracks had suddenly appeared on a piece of white paper, and its target was Wang Lin. It was as if it touched Wang Lin's body and origin soul, they would be torn to shreds just like the piece of paper. Wang Lin's pupils shrank and he immediately retreated. His right hand formed a seal and his origin soul began to move. A bolt of purple lightning shot out toward the arm. The arm didn't even try to dodge. It grabbed the purple lightning and crushed it. The purple lightning, which contained Wang Lin's origin energy, collapsed and was absorbed by the arm. This scene caused Wang Lin to frown. He let out a cold snort and spat out a grain of sand. The sand turned into a fragment stamp, and with a point of Wang Lin's finger, the fragment stamp smashed toward the arm that was charging at Wang Lin. The fragment seal landed with a bang. However, the moment it landed, the arm suddenly flashed with a bright red light. The light flashed and caused the fragment seal to miss. Wang Lin's expression was gloomy and he retreated once more. At this moment, the arm closed in and reached out. 5 cracks appeared before Wang Lin, wanting to tear his body apart. The smell of blood coming from the severed arm seemed to contain a powerful poison. Wang Lin immediately felt his body being corroded by the smell and felt a burning sensation. He retreated once more and his heart was filled with shock. The sudden appearance of the arm was too strange. This was the most dangerous battle Wang Lin had fought since he reached the corporeal Yang realm. The 5 cracks created a cold wind that caused Wang Lin's origin soul to freeze. Seeing the 5 cracks closing in, Wang Lin's third eye opened angrily without any hesitation. There was a flash of red light that formed a fan and surrounded the 5 cracks. In Wang Lin's eyes, the cracks seemed to return to their origin and quickly dissipated. In the end, they turned into 5 drops of dark red blood. In an instant, Wang Lin's right hand pointed forward and he shouted, "Stop!" At the same time, the beast bone tattoo on the back of his right hand moved and appeared as if it was surrounding Wang Lin's right hand. The black holes in the beast bone's eyes released a ghostly light. Killing intent immediately gathered and descended upon the world. This killing intent was monstrous. The beast bone's eyes lit up and the 5 drops of blood turned gray. It was as if there was a gray mist surrounding them. It gave off a different kind of beauty. In an instant, 3 of the 5 drops of blood turned to stone and the other 2 quickly retreated back into the arm. The arm paused for a moment before changing directions. It no longer attacked Wang Lin and quickly left. Wang Lin's expression was gloomy as he looked at the 3 drops of blood that had turned to stone. He grabbed them and put them away in his bag of holding. Then he slapped his bag of holding and the celestial sword appeared in his hand. There was a flash of coldness in his eyes as he quickly chased after the arm. This arm was too strange. The moment Wang Lin saw the arm, he couldn't help but think of the eyeball in the 5-colored vortex. From Wang Lin's point of view, they seemed to have the same origin. This arm is very strong, equal to a peak corporeal yang cultivator and infinitely close to a nirvana scryer cultivator. There was a flash of coldness in Wang Lin's eyes. As he chased after the arm, he mercilessly chopped down with the celestial sword in his right hand. The heavenly chop instantly created a sword shadow. When it chopped down, it was as if it had cut open the laws of the world. The void trembled and a long crack appeared. The 2 sides of the crack split open and charged at the arm. The severed arm suddenly stopped, formed a seal, and pressed back. Popping sounds came from the void. Everything within 1,000 feet of the severed arm collapsed as if it had been hit by a powerful force. There was a flash of coldness in Wang Lin's eyes and the fragment stamp flew out once more. This time it was too fast and smashed into the arm. The arm immediately trembled and gave off a bright red light as if it was injured. It escaped even faster. Just at this moment there was a team of 7 or 8 people from a cultivation family. Their faces were filled with shock. Their cultivation levels weren't high, they were around the mid or late stage of ascendant. They quickly flew over as if there was a powerful enemy chasing them. The severed arm immediately turned around and charged toward the cultivator family. It was too fast, and in the blink of an eye, it closed in. Miserable screams rang out as the severed arm tore through the cultivator's body and grabbed their origin souls. After crushing them, it immediately absorbed their origin energy. After several breaths of time, all the members of the cultivation family were dead. Their origin souls were absorbed by the arm, and the red light from the arm became even stronger. Not only did the injury on the arm recover, but it also improved. When Wang Lin saw this, his expression became even more gloomy. His eyes lit up and he saw another ray of red light closing in from the distance. There was a broken leg inside the red light. Without hesitation, Wang Lin turned around and left. The arm seemed to hesitate for a moment and didn't chase. It flew off into the distance with the broken leg and disappeared into the void. Even after it left, there was still a thick smell of blood that lingered for a long time. The entire Thunder Celestial Realm was in chaos. The 8 broken limbs that suddenly appeared were all at the peak of the corporeal yang stage. No spells would have any effect on them and would instead be crushed to extract their origin energy. Only magical treasures could be of some use, but they were not very useful. In addition, the blood-red light was filled with scorching toxins, causing the severed limbs to go on a rampage. They didn't stop and moved very fast. Not long after, 8 rays of red light arrived at the center of the Thunder Celestial Realm and fused together. Then a roar that seemed to come from ancient times echoed across the celestial realm. The severed limbs fused together, forming a complete body. This person had a head of white hair, and his face was filled with hideous scars. His entire body was damaged, and he was missing his right eye. Only his left eye remained, and it gave off a dense, cold light. Celestial Lord Shimizu, no matter how strong your seal is, it can't offset the passage of time. You wouldn't dare to kill me, or else why would you place a healing formation around the seal vortex? However, I have to thank you. If it wasn't for the seal vortex, I fear I wouldn't have survived the collapse of the celestial realm. Shimizu, since I didn't die, you naturally won't die either. Unless you find another seal left by the ancient celestial realm, I want to see how you can seal me again. The white-haired man's expression was ferocious as he laughed wildly and charged into the void. He was too fast and had a great understanding of the thunder celestial realm. As he moved through the void, he arrived on a fragment. This fragment was the location of the passage that Wang Lin and Li Yuan saw when they opened the seal. The man waved his hand, causing the entire fragment to collapse. This was the location of the ninth seal. As the fragment collapsed, a monstrous, fierce aura rushed out. There was a flash of red light and an eyeball flew out. This person grabbed it and placed it inside the hole in his right eye. The G realm was sealed in my right eye and I consumed too much during the Celestial Realm War. It is too difficult to replenish it, but it is not impossible. However, I have just escaped and only have 10% of my cultivation left. I need to recover my celestial origin as soon as possible. There was a flash of red in this person's eyes, and he revealed a grim sneer. After so many years, a lot of juniors have appeared. Very good, I'll devour them all. Although I won't be able to fully recover my cultivation, I'll be able to recover a bit. However, before I devour them, I need to close the gate to the celestial realm so they can't escape. The person grinned as his body flickered and disappeared into the void. Wang Lin took Li Yuan and the two of them moved at full speed toward the gate to the far west celestial realm. The two of them were silent along the way and didn't speak to each other. Wang Lin's expression was extremely gloomy. He had a premonition that the Thunder Celestial Realm was going to be in chaos. We must leave this place as soon as possible. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he took Li Yuan with him as they moved even faster. Along the way, the two of them saw many cultivators. All of them had the same goal, the gate to the celestial realm. It was obvious that many of them had the same idea as Wang Lin and were ready to leave this place. In the void, rays of light shot toward the west like meteors. No one had time to talk to each other. They were all moving at full speed. They gradually got closer and closer to the gate to the celestial realm. In the distance, they could vaguely see the giant bolt of red lightning descending from the sky. At this moment, the surrounding cultivators all began to teleport. They wanted to leave even faster. However, just at this moment, a red mist rushed in like crazy from the distance, and a hoarse voice echoed across the world. No one can leave. A person walked out from the red fog. He had a head full of white hair and was as thin as a skeleton. His eyes were bloodshot, and as he stepped out, he reached out with his right hand. Immediately, an unimaginably large amount of celestial spiritual energy raged in the air. The ascendant cultivators in front of him were filled with terror. Their bodies immediately collapsed into pieces of flesh and blood that were sucked into this person's mouth. Even the origin souls of these cultivators couldn't escape and were all devoured by this person. Why do the cultivators nowadays have so little origin energy? After converting it into celestial origin energy, there's not much left. The white-haired person frowned as he charged toward the gate to the celestial realm. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.